video on the Sega Genesis Repair Secrets. Now before I get started, I'd like to cover a couple things that may assist you in your repair. Earlier, in addition to this video, Genesis Repair Secrets, Array Systems has produced a couple of other videos that might assist you, as I say, in your repair. The first video that we did a couple years ago was the NES Repair Secrets, and it was approximately a 2-hour video, and it featured component by component the Nintendo Entertainment System NES 001. We stepped you through each component and how to repair them. As I mentioned earlier, it's approximately a 2-hour video. That video will complement your shop if you are a repair center for video games. The second video that we did was the NES or SNS Repair Secrets video. It's approximately 90 minutes, and it goes component by component through the Super Nintendo system and shows you how to repair each component. With these two videos, in addition to this video, the Sega video, you should be able to repair the 3 most popular video game systems that come in the front door. Next product I'd like you to be aware of is the Irata Clean Sticks. These clean sticks come in a dozen. We sell them in a pack of a dozen. And what you get is you get some small sticks and some large sticks. The small sticks are designed to be used to repair the video game cartridges. You can use alcohol on them if you'd like, 99% alcohol, and clean them, or you can just use them dry. The large sticks are used to actually clean the console themselves. So between both of these, when you get a dozen, you should be able to clean the full components, full system, full complement of all the components in the system. A couple things that I would like to add here. One is, you'll notice that this is not a very fancy video. We don't have a lot of fancy features to the video. Our intent of this video, as with our other videos, is not to wow you with those fantastic graphics. Our intent is to train you on how to repair the system. And if you'll watch it and review it, and as you get problems that you don't know how to repair, if you go back and review the video, we will do that in this video. The second thing I'd like to mention is that we are a very small company. We would like you to honor our copyright that we have on this video. If you or your friends or an acquaintance or someone else would like a copy of the video, we would ask you to respect our copyright and not copy them for them, but refer them to your distributing dealer where you got your video and have them buy an additional copy. That way, we will continue to be able to produce these as the video game industry changes. We'll be able to have the revenue to make additional tapes and to go back and make these other tapes better for you and to support you. So it's in your best interest to support us so that we can in turn support you. Now the first component that we'd like to talk about is the AC adapter, and we're going to first cover the 1602 adapter. The 1602, if you'll notice, consists of a long, about a 6 to 10 foot power cord, and then it consists of the main body of the AC adapter with the access screws. If yours doesn't say Sega on it, 1602, then you probably have a generic adapter, and I would skip this part. But if it's 1602, we're going to cover that now. First thing that you want to do before you even attempt to gain access to the internal is do some preliminary checking on the AC adapter to see if you should go ahead and proceed to get inside. The first thing that you'll need is a volt ohm meter. This one has a continuity checker on it, which gives you an audible signal if there is continuity. Okay? This is nice to have when you go to check these out. The next thing that you'll need is the Irata Systems T-handled security opener. And what this does, this serves multi-purposes. It will allow you to gain access to several video game systems that are out there. It will also allow you to gain access to the internals of this should you decide to proceed. This is the Irata Systems security T-handled security opener. Okay, so we're going to set that up there, and if we need it, we'll go ahead and go into the system. The other thing you will need if we decide to proceed is probably a soldering iron and some solder, and we'll get that out in just a few minutes. First thing you need to do is if the AC adapter is suspected, and I'll tell you how to do that. First of all, you get the game console itself. Okay. Plug the AC adapter in the back. Okay. Go ahead and insert the game into the unit. And then you turn it on. And you'll notice right here, the red light should come up. It should turn on. If the red light doesn't come on, there's a couple things that could be bad. This red light obviously could be burned out. It's an LED. That LED could be burned out. Or there could be something inside the machine itself that is burned up, not allowing this red light to come on. Now I have seen people that have tried to go in and fix their own Sega Genesis, and they've pulled the wires off the slide. And when we get into the system, this will make a little more sense to you. But if you turn it on...
Hello, everybody. Oh, I don't have a camera.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. Oh, there I am. I was disappeared, and then I appeared.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right. Well, look at this. We've got some split screen action.
Yeah. It's the first time really doing it. I guess this way with our new setup, but it works. I think. So big week. We're joined tonight by the man of the week, Kevtris. This must have been a busy week for you.
Yeah, it has been.
And really busy weeks leading up to this week, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm glad it's launched, and it seems well received, and it went pretty much as smoothly as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, reviews have been very good. And deservedly so. I mean, it turned out awesome. Has been putting it through its paces for, gosh, I want to say
it was about
December 20th or so.
Yeah, that's about when the prototype unit came, which, if I remember what you told us correctly, it's been the board has been finalized for quite some time, right? So the board that I had in the system was a finalized board.
Yeah, there was only 2 revs of the hardware. There was the original rev of the hardware, which worked fine. And then the second rev, which basically moved the connectors very slightly. And that was pretty much it. Everything worked the first time. And the hardware was done back in June or July.
Yeah, the prototype that was sent to me, it was in a black shell, but it looked, as far as I could tell, just like the final release units. But it was good that we had our hands on that because to do the sorts of videos that we normally do where we, look at all of these weird aspects of the system and the settings and stuff, I really needed that extra time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you got to use it. So yours is like this one. This is a prototype also. See, it's shiny. It doesn't have the texture on it.
Oh, okay. Well, now mine was black and it has texture, but I didn't really directly look at them side by side with the final unit, but I'm pretty sure it was basically the same thing on the outside.
Okay, yeah. This is the first rev of plastic right out of the mold, the very, very first one. So I'm not sure how many revs there was. I think there was 6 or 7, just minor things. And the texturing's put on last, so this is before that. So this has kind of been the test unit. I've been testing all the hardware on it. all the software before I send it out, just to make sure it works.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I remember there was also a sort of like a two-tone black and white one that was kind of interesting that was sitting on your desk when we were there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I did with that. Yeah, you're right.
There was like a split second of controversy earlier today when they
This
saw.
one?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's the final production prototype. So this is the production unit with just a black and
Just
black
a different color.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Is there any one that you prefer the most?
I like the clear one.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people. I guess it was a little controversial for a minute there. I mean, I'm not sure if people are still talking about it. Like, it looked a little bit different in person than it did in the renders that they had on the site. It wasn't. I mean, the pictures, like the frosting on it wasn't very. You couldn't really see the frosting, but it was definitely there because,
the board was blurry.
Yes.
Well, the issue with that, the plastic is, totally clear. It's just the texturing's a bit more aggressive, so it makes it look kind of frosty. But it really is absolutely clear plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, especially if you look at like kind of at an oblique angle, then like it looks more white. But if you like look at it straight down, you can see like the blackness of the board show through much more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna play a bunch of games tonight. I updated my SC to SNES, and I'm just gonna play a bunch of stuff. And I was thinking that I'm gonna start with Equinox. So I'm gonna switch over. I'm gonna switch over. People haven't seen this yet. I guess we have an HD TV gameplay. I was at first, I was like, I'm gonna do it on the PVM layout, but then I realized it doesn't make sense because the native environment for it is on an HD TV.
Right. So even though you don't actually get any benefit from having the black bars there, this is the Super NT's natural environment, at least until that adapter comes out.
Kevin, I actually bought this about 2 days after we were there.
Yeah.
Which? The SD to SNES?
Oh, no, Equinox.
Oh, yeah. That's like one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. I've played the hell out of it.
And it's for people that didn't notice, it's what's playing in the background for the entire interview.
Yeah, and then you sent me a clip that had sort of that bad DMA with this globe kind of coming forward, and it was like all screwed up colors and stuff.
Yeah, this part right here is screwed up. If your HDMA is not quite right, that is all hosed up because there's a bug in the game.
Is the audio too loud? Do I gotta bring it down a little bit? I can bring it down. Hang on a second. Audio's popping. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's too close to me. Audio is very choppy. Let me just stop the stream and restart it really quick.
Oh yeah, that is
new layout though. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's only that happened to you before though.
You may want to turn that negative 3 dB cut on. Maybe the audio is just way too loud for it.
I think it's
It could. Yeah, sometimes Corey's setup for some reason will just get this garbled audio that fixes itself when you stop and restart the stream. Okay, it's good now. Yeah, you could adjust the 3 dB. Now what with the 3 dB cut option, does that is there any particular advantage of using that over just adjusting your volume or?
Yeah, well, on certain monitors, since the SNES game, sometimes they'll just hit the audio as loud as possible, 0 dB, and it clips even. Like Zool is a good example. It's like extremely loud and it clips. On certain monitors, like my monitor, the DAC in there, it doesn't like that, and it'll actually distort.
Yeah, I noticed it with UN Squadron. Like almost every. almost every enemy that you blow up, there's like this sort of audio clip. And at first, when I was testing, I haven't played like a ton of UN Squadron myself, so I'm not overly familiar with it. So at first I was like, oh, here's like an audio glitch on the Super NT. But then I went back and checked it on original hardware, and it's there too. It's just like a very weirdly loud game.
Yeah, there's a lot of games like that. And that's one thing that's kind of annoying. Like this Equinox game, it's like super duper quiet. And then you'll play like that Zill game, it's like super duper loud.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this overworld map, it looks really weird. Just the way it's...
Yeah. I do know that if you like go like into the hut that's like in the center, like it's like a level, but I don't really know what like the progression.
Those little things right there. Those are basically there's one level, and those are all the entrances to it. And they
okay.
A lot of times they do connect, so they all lead into the same level. It's all like connected together.
Okay.
And
How long of a game would you say it is?
Well, the first time I played it and got through it, it took me about a month. But I mean, I wasn't really playing it like a lot.
Yeah.
But there's 8 different levels, so this is the first level.
Okay.
And so the way it works is once you get through this level and you beat it, then it unlocks the next section, and then you can go into the next level.
Now, is this game available like on PC platforms or anything? Because it really looks like that sort of game.
I don't think so.
Is it a sequel to something? Because when on the boot up screen it says Solstice 2.
Solstice, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an NES game.
Okay. I'm not too familiar with it.
That's not the way I go.
But you could have jumped straight off to the left off of that last platform.
You probably have it memorized at this point.
Yeah.
I do know that because I tested it out a little bit too. I played on the Super UFO to record a little clip of Equinox for the video. And I do know if you go into the hut that's like right next to where you start, then like right down there, there's a throwing. You can get a throwing knife.
Yeah, that's your weapon. Yeah, because I don't think he has a weapon yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've already got that thing, so you don't really have to do anything. You can just you need to get your weapon before you can kill anything.
So can you just leave the dungeon by like jumping on top of the...
Jump on that that cage there.
Oh, okay. So I gotta go back out.
Jump on that cage there, and then you just wait a little bit. A little ladder appears, and then you can just jump straight up when that appears. So yeah, just wait there. Yeah, there you go. Now just jump straight up. Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
And that saves your game also.
Oh, cool. Oops. I just went back in. I'm not very good with isometric stuff. Definitely is.
So, can you explain what the difference between just DMA and HDMA is?
HDMA is kind of the superpower of the system.
Okay.
So, what it does is it lets you do scanline effects automatically.
At no cost.
Well, it costs a little tiny bit of CPU cycles, but other than that, there's really not really very much cost. It's a lot easier versus the CPU having to do interrupts. So yeah, if you go down to the lower left door, so if you just hit, just that way.
Oh, do I have unlimited throwing knives then?
Yeah.
Can I kill the ghosts?
Yeah, you gotta kill. Yeah, I call them Pac-Man rejects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you saying that on the clips that you sent me of some of your early testing. You're like Pac-Man reject ghosts.
Yeah, you got to kill them both before the door opens.
One of the games that you played during those testing clips you sent me was Noah's Ark 3D, and I was so bummed out that I couldn't figure out a place in the video to actually use that, because that would have been great. The problem was it worked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it did work. There's actually a bug in it, and I had to fix it.
But it looked like it worked, at least in that test clip.
Oh, no, it did. Yes, it worked there. But Before, that was after I fixed it.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, man, if it didn't work, then I could like use it as like an example of like, you know, some bugs that you had to fix. But it worked, so I'm like, okay, I can't do anything with this.
Oh yeah, one thing that I like about this game, once you've killed all the enemies in a room and gotten all the collectibles, they don't respawn.
Oh, it's perfect. I love that kind of stuff.
So like there, since you didn't kill that last enemy, it'll all 4 of those will respawn.
Okay.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So it only remembers that you got all of them, or
and the collectibles too. So I don't know if you have your weapon anymore. You might have to go get that again.
Yeah. Oh man.
But so like HDMA, that's like
it saves with the amount of lives, or do you get like
Yeah, so to get that filled back up, you have to get like the apple. So there's like an apple that you can get and it fills it back up. So yeah, you're kind of screwed if you don't have any help until you do that. But at least you can keep playing, you know. You just have basically what amounts to 1 life. So as the game progresses, you get more life, you know, sections there. You know, you can have up to like effectively 20 or so lives at least. So I mean, that makes the game pretty bearable. You know, you're not punished so badly.
Now, hopefully it was somewhat clear from the video, like when we were like sort of telling like the part of the story where you were describing like the DMA type bugs were sort of some of the hardest things for you to sort out. And you kind of went into more detail in the interview, but because I didn't want it to take too much time, I kind of cut out some of that. But you kind of elaborated that the reason it worked on original hardware was something like it would be told to get like a certain value in the RAM that I forget exactly how you put it, but like it would just so happen to be, it would go to a certain register that happened to have the right number for it to work, but that wasn't how it was supposed to work or something, right?
Oh, on the Equinox, yeah, basically.
Well, or any of them really.
Well, on Equinox, what ends up happening is during the initialization of the game, they started DMA up, an HDMA, and you know the registers, they just like clear them all out, and then they start it by accident. They were not supposed to start it. Mm-hmm. And so what it does is it fetches data from the very beginning of RAM, and just because of the stuff that is in RAM, because of the way the game is starting, it just happens to cause it to fail.
But it works.
Yeah, and if it doesn't fail, then that's what corrupts it.
So what exactly does it mean for it to fail? Like what is the system? Does the system react to a failure in some way, or what?
Well, those corrupt graphics is what ends up happening.
Right, except the failure results in non-failure in this case.
Well, I mean, the game doesn't crash, but it just, you know, looks terrible.
Right.
So I would consider that a failure, you know?
Right, okay.
But I mean, the DMA is supposed to fail, and when the DMA fails, then the graphics do not get corrupted.
Now, when you say that the DMA was too good, and that was what caused it to not fail, like what was different about the structure of your DMA system compared to the original hardware structure? Was it just more, what was the original hardware DMA structure, you know, if I'm even saying that right, really, like just poorly organized, or what's the deal?
I don't know, it's really hard to describe. Well, that was more on, there's like a Bug Bunny game, and if the DMA is, you know, 100%, you know, works like you would expect it, there's the background has got corrupt graphics in it.
Okay. See, I have to admit, when we were there in December conducting the interview, like so much of, like in that moment, like so much of this is I'm just thinking, wow, I don't understand like very much of this at all. And then when I like went back and like reviewed, you know, the interview and everything that was said, I was like, and was like able to like take my time going through it. I'm like, oh, this actually makes a whole lot of sense. Like, you know, this, I feel like we were able to present everything in a way that, you know, was pretty understandable in terms of, you know, what makes it tick, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to convey, too, how much effort went into this.
Mm-hmm.
I still
and
want to
you were working on it last time. You were on the stream about a year ago, and you were working on it then.
Actually,
I started it in January, February, March or April is when it officially started development.
Okay. So it was like either right as you started it or just before, I guess, when you were on the stream for the NT Mini.
It was just before. That's why all the NT Mini work just stopped one day, is because that's when I started on it.
Now, you know, John and I were talking earlier today, like after he had finished up his video, and I noticed that the firmware update came out, which actually fixed the Megalomania bug that he identified, and you know, showed how that was actually a bug in Hagane and the Super NT at present. But it made me think, like, when you go and fix these bugs, is it actually changing the entire hardware structure, or is it like making an exception for specific situations?
Oh no, there are no hacks in this.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's a question in the
for everything. So, but that was the only game that ever bank switched sprites using HDMA, as far as I know. So that's why that's the only game affected, because that's the only one that ever did it.
So you can pretty safely assume that nothing else is broken from your fix.
Yes, And you know, the other fix I did was that Mecha Robot Golf. It had some occasional glitching, and the reason is because they turned the HDMA off right before it was going to happen, and I was still letting it go through, and I should not have. So that was the fix there, so that shouldn't affect anything else either. So that totally fixed that game. But what I think's funny, and the reason I have this PVM out, is because that game has some glitching on it, and it's normal.
Oh, okay.
At the middle of the screen on the right edge, there's some flickery, fuzzy pixels, and that's actually on the real system too. And I have it also. And I was wondering if it was a bug, so I had to check, and it is not a bug, or at least not mine.
I'm actually noticing like 2 flickering pixels in Wild Guns here, like just above the HUD and the gameplay area. I'm sure that's on original hardware, but I wonder. Might have to check. It probably is, though.
I didn't see it.
At least it was on that first level. It's probably there, though. I've just never noticed it before. I don't have the original cart for this.
Was it just on a? I mean, where was that?
It's like just above the black line on the little HUD. Like above where it says Wild Guns, and then on the far right, there's like 2 flickering pixels.
Oh yeah, that's probably where they're changing mode with an interrupt. That's
okay.
That's kind of what the golf thing looks like too. And it's because they kind of missed the target very slightly, and they were supposed to do it in H-blank, and they didn't. So then you can see a little tiny bit right there.
Now, does that option in the settings about the interlace disable on modes 5 and 6, would that have anything to do with this?
No, that's only if they had the interlace turned on, and I highly doubt this game does that.
Okay.
Do you ever find stuff that is?
There's only like one game where that affects it, and I think that was I can't remember what game that was now.
Do Do you ever find
So-
some
so-
stuff like in the hard, like in certain games where it's kind of like, that's really brilliant what they did there? Where it's just, you're kind of impressed with like the techniques that they did, like how they achieve certain effects. Does that make sense?
What now?
Like if you're just impressed with how certain games like did certain effects, you're like, oh, that's really clever the way they did that.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of very interesting things that they have done.
Try, there's a
But
donation,
that
so be sure to keep an eye out
HDMA
for it.
abuse seems to be one of the big things that they always do on Super Nintendo games. Like here on the SD to SNES is a good example. That gradient for each file name, that's an HDMA effect.
And I believe you talked about gradients when we were there, and you said like a gradient on the Super Nintendo is a single RAM entry.
It's a single palette entry, and they change it every couple scan lines using the HDMA.
Right. So that just helps save memory resources, basically.
Well, it lets you save colors, so you can have, say, 15 fixed colors, and then the one color that you're changing every...
You're right. See,
It's
UN
a-
Squadron
so
is a
that's-
lot louder than everything else. Like, just the game in general, like...
Yeah, it is. It's really weird. So there was a $2 donation a bit ago from Ukuo. Asking us, try playing on the C7. How does it look? First of all, Corey is playing, so it's not on the OLED C7. But in the video, there were several off-screen shots from the C7. In fact, I think the only off-screen shots in the video that weren't on the C7 were the ones showing scan lines in Super Mario World and showing how you need to use like 4x and 5x instead of 4.5x for scan lines. But there's that the close-ups of playing Link to the Past, and there's a close-up of like an ultra close-up of Terra in Final Fantasy VI. All of that Earthbound scan line stuff, like all of that was off screen of the the OLED C7. So that's 1080p, or in the case of the Earthbound clip, since they were scanline shots, that was 720p upscaled to 4K by the C7.
So I guess this is like kind of a good time for me to play UN Squadron. This is, for those who don't know, I've like made this game kind of like a project of mine where I'm going to try to completely master it this year.
Just get really good at that you could just like beat it in your sleep.
Yeah. It's been like a few hours every month playing through it, and then once I can beat it pretty consistently, then I can try to improve on my time.
Ace, that's correct. The C7 does not do any integer scaling. I'm not aware of any 4K integer scaling other than there were some Panasonic TV models that Digital Foundry looked at that did, I don't think it was with 720p, but I think it was with 1080p, did offer integer scaling to nearest neighbor. Oh wait, you said integer scaling. It should be integer scaling, but not nearest neighbor. Is that what you meant? I was thinking of nearest neighbor, not integer scaling. It is not nearest neighbor scaling, but it is. I mean, it's an integer scale, but it's a not completely sharp scale, but it's still quite sharp. Yeah, okay, you meant nearest neighbor, yeah. There was Panasonic. I don't think Panasonic actually sells TVs in America anymore, though, if I'm not mistaken. But there was a European... I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
Interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they stopped several years ago. I could be wrong, but I don't think there are Panasonic TVs in America anymore. Especially once they phase out plasma, maybe. But it was a European Panasonic 4K model that they were looking at that did offer nearest neighbor, I think, for 1080p, but not 720. We really got so lucky with a lot of the B-roll that we got at your place, because in the interview you were talking about, the Sufami Turbo and the Game Saver Plus and the Dr. SF6. And when I was like shooting all that footage of that stuff, like I honestly really didn't have much of an idea of what I was playing my camera at. Like these are some strange devices that I'm not particularly familiar with. And it just so happened in the interview you're like listing all these weird things, and it just so happened that we had footage of them. I had to go to Google and double check, okay, what does the Game Saver Plus look like? Oh, okay, I did get a shot of that.
But you said, like I'm so happy you got shots of this, of certain things.
Yeah,
I did like a lot of other
you did a
B-roll.
lot of tripod shots, and I did a lot more sort of handheld style shots. So it was, well, there were things, I'm not sure you even realized that you were shooting at the NT Mini when you did the shot.
I did. Oh yeah.
Okay. Because it was like in the opening of the video, there's a shot of a open NT Mini board, which I've never opened the NT Mini. I assume that there's screws under the rubber feet on the glass bottom, but I'd never really wanted to mess with it. So I was glad that you had that shot of the inside. Mr. Maynard is asking, try any of the Derby Stallion games. If I'm not mistaken, Kevtris, are those special chip games? Are those like DSP or something?
They're not special chip, but they have special memory mapping, so they don't work on the SD to SNES.
Oh.
Some of them do. Yeah, I looked into that. I was like, well, this game's black screening. Why? And then I was poking around, and it's because it's kind of a special cartridge. I think it had like sub cartridges on it.
Really?
Interesting.
Or something. Yeah, I looked it up. So they don't work on the SD to SNES, but it's not my fault at least. So there is that.
Did you ever have an opportunity to try an actual cartridge of those?
I've never seen one. I'd have to buy it.
And I guess they don't work on any other flash carts either, huh?
No, I don't. Probably not. Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's probably why they're asking for it. But yeah, it doesn't work on the SD to SNES simply because mapping's not in there. Yeah.
Isn't that kind of similar to how a lot of NES cartridges are, like where they've just got tons and tons of mappers, right?
Yeah, well, fortunately on the Super Nintendo, there's only basically like 2 quote-unquote mappers, and it's not even really mappers.
Okay.
It's just high ROM and low ROM.
If anybody in the chat has anything that they want me to play, just let me know. I could try some of the weird stuff. Like some of the hacks and homebrews. Palette NTSC 60 Hz patched.
I tested the Link to the Past randomizer on it, and that worked. But that, yeah, I was really tempted because when we did that little sort of quad stream of playing that on the Backloggery, that was before the Super NT embargo was up. But I was so tempted to play it on, thinking, no one's gonna know what it is.
Some DoReMi fantasy.
But I played it on the real Super Nintendo instead. Someone in the chat says Lost Vikings 2, which I can say with all confidence that I am the first person in the world to play through the entirety of Lost Vikings 2 on a Super NT. I actually brought the system to my parents' house for Christmas break, and I thought, what's a game on my backlog that, because like with the NT Mini, like we didn't get it far enough ahead of time for me to really just sit down and play through an extended game on it. I tested out everything I had, but I wasn't able to play a ton of everything, So with this, I thought, well, I've got this opportunity to actually play through an entire game and make sure everything works. And it did. I played through the entire game, marked it off my backlog. Now, an interesting thing with that was, again, I thought there was a glitch with the Super NT, and there actually was not. There are sort of some occasional audio pops, like when certain sound effects play. Like, it's very subtle. It's not like obnoxious, but there is a slight audio pop. And at first I was like, is this a Super NT thing, or is it always like that? Because since I hadn't really played much of the game before, I didn't know. And I went and you actually fixed some. There were some audio issues that you did fix, and when I went back to Lost Vikings and some other examples, I'm like, oh no, like the fix that you did for the other sound effects didn't fix these. And then I double checked with the original hardware, and it was like, oh, those audio pops are there too. So,
what's funny is I still can't believe that bug was in there so long that you found with that audio bug.
Oh, for Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3?
Yeah, because what caused it was I was skipping out on the first 16 samples of every sample that it played. It just didn't play the first 16 samples.
Of every sound effect?
Every sound effect, every note, everything. I can't believe that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and most samples start with silence, so it didn't matter. But the Donkey Kong, it didn't matter. And there was also crap, I can't remember what the name of it is. Some kind of frantic flea. The drum samples were popping really bad, and then that fixed it.
Okay, well that was the same thing with the world map music in Donkey Kong Country 2 as well. The drum, like the deep drum sample, there was a pop on those. So that was a separate problem from the pause sound.
Yeah, but it was the same problem. It was just the missing samples.
Okay. Well, so I've heard that Donkey Kong Country, like, part of how it got that really high quality sound was it used like shorter samples than other systems or other games for the system. I mean, that's what I've heard anyway.
I was a little.
What?
Oh, sorry.
I had to say what now? I didn't catch that. Sorry.
I said that that's what I've heard. I don't know completely if it's true that like the Donkey Kong Country samples are shorter, and for whatever reason, that's why they sound high quality.
Oh, yeah. Equinox is the same way. The samples are fairly short, but they're really well looped.
Mm-hmm.
So they sound pretty good.
But yeah, the one of the most interesting audio glitches that again, it occurs on original hardware, and I've played Donkey Kong Country 3 many times, and I just don't remember this at all. But on the last level of the second world in Donkey Kong Country 3, you can play as the elephant, or you have to play as the elephant actually. And for some reason, the particular music in that level, the elephant's foot stomps cause this audio pop sound, and it sounds awful. Uh-huh. Now I noticed here on I did a segment of video on this game, and I'm drawing a blank on how you pronounce the name of it.
Umihara Kawase.
Umihara Kawase. I'm noticing some flickering in the water. That's probably how it actually is.
Oh yeah.
Something.
I mean, that's
something
normal to me.
Yeah, I can't remember. Something that I actually didn't notice until I was testing the Super NT.
I can't remember how to do this, how to play it.
Was in the first level in Donkey Kong Country, the sky actually flickers, like very subtly. And same thing with I want to say it's the third or maybe the fourth level in Donkey Kong Country. My dog is like freaking out all of a sudden. She's just like looking around like something's going on. The fourth level in Donkey Kong Country 2, there's sort of this gimmick where the sun is setting, so it like gets darker over the course of the level, and the sun very subtly flickers in that as well. And I never noticed, and then I went back and again looked at on original hardware, and the sun flickers there too.
Yeah, well, a lot of games will do a 30 hertz flicker, which isn't so noticeable on a CRT. You know, if they want to do some kind of slight dimming effect, so they'll do like a 30 hertz flicker.
Right, that's what I noticed.
Saw somebody mention Power Instinct, which is a game I'm not familiar with. So I'll play that after this.
Power Instinct?
Yeah.
Is it a
sounds like a fighting game
with? Okay, is it a game that tends to have issues?
No, I just saw someone. I just said recommend games. So.
Yeah, this game is pretty interesting. I wonder how much math is involved in calculating that.
It's got. I mean, I've never really seen anything else like it, especially not on the Super Nintendo. It's very physicsy.
Yeah, and really fluid too. That's what I think is interesting about it.
Yeah, it's a pretty expensive game too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a speed run of it quite a while ago.
I mean, the way that
I guess
I can't.
I don't know if it's like crazy expensive. I always think it's like more expensive than it is. Isn't it like $50 now though? I mean, you know, it's expensive, but not like insane.
Yeah, I don't know. So you got to hold down to kind of pull yourself up.
Yeah, you know, when I was playing the I don't know if it's an emulation or a port or what that's in the Vita game, the Vita Umihara Kawase game.
Uh-huh.
You know, they've got the Super Famicom version in it, and I thought that this game actually controls a lot better than the Vita version.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
It was easier to sort of get good swinging momentum. Like I kind of got hooked on this and played it for longer than I thought I would, because I was primarily just trying to get footage of the Vita version. So I was like, oh, this version is better than I thought.
So when the first game I booted up on my system was the Mario All-Stars plus Mario World, and I was getting like do not pirate this game, and I had to switch it to what is it? I had to put on the launch
launch system timing.
Yeah.
On which? On the real cartridge?
Yeah, of Mario World or Mario All-Stars plus Mario World.
Oh, that's weird. I've never had that happen.
Yeah, well, it's not mine, but I've got access to the PAL cartridge for All-Stars Plus World, and all that happened on that was if I started up the cartridge when the system was in NTSC mode, it would say, you know, this card, I actually showed it in the video, this cartridge is not designed for your Super NES or Super Famicom, and then I switch it to PAL and boot it, and it will boot. And then once it's booted, I can change it to NTSC if I want, but the game plays too fast.
Yeah, that's their typical region protection.
Someone was asking, I don't know if it was which version of Street Fighter it was. Someone was asking, like, apparently, like, after every match, like, Street Fighter checks, like, the register, like, the region flag.
Uh-huh.
Or something, and they were asking if that was checked on the Super NT or not.
Yeah,
like,
of course it is.
Right, but I guess the question is there, like, does your NTSC mode like it doesn't get around issues like that. If it checks it periodically, it can't help
No,
that.
there's not really much you can do other than hack the game.
Right.
Or just run it on the proper region or get the proper region version of the game.
Right.
Play some Rockman and Forte. Somebody mentioned it.
Oh yeah, I need to get that.
It's kind of a weird game. I mean, it looks like
It looks like
it's also loud. It's loud, like UN Squadron is.
Well, Capcom. Yeah, it's a weird game. You know, I never liked the Mega Man 8 style Mega Man sprite as much as the Mega Man 7. Like, the Mega Man 7 Mega Man sprite is my favorite Mega Man sprite. Like, I just really like his pose. It just, you know, looks like he's ready for action. I never liked, like, he's just kind of got this, like, fist, but he doesn't look like he's putting a lot of feeling into that fist. You know?
Yeah, was this before Mega Man 8?
I don't think so. Didn't it say 98 on the title screen there?
Yeah, I feel like that would be after 8.
I've always assumed it was after 8. I always assumed 8 came before this. Well, because aren't some of the 8 bosses in this like
I don't know
Clown Man
really
or
anything
something?
about this.
I'm pretty sure, like, I want to say like maybe half of the bosses are Mega Man 8 bosses. I used to have the GBA version of this, but I never finished it. But I want to get the Super Famicom version. Yeah, it is a weird game.
So yeah, this was after 8. That's interesting.
Yeah, I was always pretty sure it was after 8.
I'll do an MSU 1 game after this.
Oh yeah. Now, you were talking about in the interview you were talking about being surprised that, you know, the SD2S NES, like MSU1 stuff worked, but you weren't necessarily so much talking about the soundtrack stuff. I think you were talking about like other functions that you were surprised worked. Like, was it like FMV or what exactly were you thinking of?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised the thing worked. I mean, I just tried it out and it worked the first time, so I didn't have to keep up for everything.
But I think you were saying that there was like specific like DMA things that you thought would be broken that weren't, right?
Well, full motion video is pretty DMA intensive, so I was kind of surprised that it just worked. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but you know, it's always one of those things where you try it out and everything just works, and you don't have to do any special debugging or anything. That's nice.
Now, was the MSU1 stuff, was it made as like kind of an emulation thing before it was implemented in hardware?
Yeah, it was. So, you know, I think it's kind of hard to implement it on hardware because it was kind of designed for emulation use.
Right. Yeah, I actually didn't know that until recently. I always assumed like it was made for the SD2S NES because, but then I did some Googling and I found this forum thread where people were talking like, oh, I just found out about this fictional SNES chip. And I thought, fictional is a weird way to describe it. And I was like, wait a second, maybe that is how it started off before they made like the hardware version.
Yeah, the Hagane guy, BYUU, or whatever you call his name, he's the one that created it, I think.
Right. But I guess it's kind of supposed to be like, what if the CD add-on came out?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting from a technical standpoint. I don't know how, you know, useful it really is. You know, what does it really add to a game? So, you know, I was playing the Zelda game. It was okay, but I mean, the full motion video just kind of didn't go with the game. That was my opinion.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I do like the music stuff though. Like, I mean, I don't have an SD2S NES myself, so I haven't like, you know, really played anything for real with it. But it's cool. It's cool. You know, not something I would probably play a ton with, but it's just very cool that it even works, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think is interesting too. I mean, I'm glad it works, so if people want to use it, it's there to use.
Oh wow, it's kind of like a progression path.
So the Suit Family Turbo, that is like it didn't like Bandai make that, and it's got like 2 or 4 cartridge slots on it, right?
He's getting it.
I'm not sure where it went here. Oh, here it
Holy
is.
cow! I just noticed we've got like 611 people watching.
That's a record.
That is like by far record. Well, you know what can I say? Last time Kevtris was on was a record too. So
yeah.
So there's the box. So
Kind of hard to see, but yeah.
So, is there data for a single game on multiple cartridges, or how does it work exactly?
I'm not really 100% sure. I did read about it. So basically, the left cartridge here, this is where your game goes, and you can have add-on stuff in this one. So if you like put this in over here and you turn it on, it'll actually tell you with a little animation to like put it over in here instead.
Okay.
So I mean, there's nothing really magic about this. I mean, it's just maps 2 cartridges into the address space. I mean, there's nothing really special about it other than it just looks interesting.
I'll do the Link to a Past reorchestrated and video. So we'll give it a shot. So I got to turn on the go to the
cartridge
setting.
audio.
Yeah, audio.
What are you going to test out?
This is
the Link to the Past.
Yeah.
After this, maybe let's try. Do you have the gamma boost turned on?
I can turn it on right now.
Well, because
John was saying in his video, like, just to put it on all the time.
I saw that as well, and I was actually listening earlier today, or no, it was actually on Friday. I listened to the interview that you did with Bob, and you said on that, you said that you actually
I had it on.
Okay, I thought it looked like it was on. You said you thought it was good to have it on because you thought certain things did need a gamma boost. I believe you mentioned that there was like a certain gradient on a title screen or something where you like could see more layers to the gradient if you use a gamma boost, but you don't like lose detail either.
That's ASP, Airstrike Patrol.
Airstrike Patrol.
Yeah, there's like 4 levels in the gradient, and on the CRT you can easily see them, but without the gamma boost you can't see it.
Interesting. I'd like to check that out. Maybe let's look at that next. That's not the game that John showed with like the shadow thing, is it? Was that something else, or was that it? Or I don't know if you've gotten to see.
It's kind of an isometric airplane game. It's kind of like a Desert Strike. But I
think it might have been what John showed.
That's the game that John showed, but I don't remember what it was called.
Like, apparently it does the shadow in a super weird way, I think.
You didn't try your Game Boy camera, did you?
No, I didn't, but why? Why would it matter?
I think it'd be cool. It would have been cool.
Yeah, but Game Boy camera why wouldn't it work?
Well, it got me thinking. So I'm going to the Louisville Arcade Expo in a couple weeks, and my friend Ricky is going to have a photo booth. And it's going to be a Game Boy camera photo booth. And he's going to use an upscaler to take a screenshot of the of the SNES, like using the Game Boy camera. But if he was to use the NT Mini, it'd be like HD, like straight up. It'd be kind of a cool thing to do. It'd be cool to do a video like that.
Thank you, Brennan Doherty. Donated $1 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, I think the animation on the Zelda game is so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
hilarious.
I wonder like who made this, because I mean it's it's something that clearly took quite a bit of work.
Yeah,
but it doesn't really go with the game. I mean, it doesn't make much sense. That's what I found interesting.
I mean, it's kind of like the FMVs that they added to the PlayStation version of Chrono Trigger, because like there's multiple anime scenes that play like over the course of the game, but they recreate scenes that happen with the sprite graphics. So I forget which order it plays, whether I think it does the FMV first, and then it does like the sprite version of the scene that was in the original version. It is kind of weird.
I guess if I just touch the D-pad at all, it skips. It skips everything.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, the thing that I found amusing about this was, you're watching that FMV and then it just drops you to the game and you're like, oh, it's the game now.
Yeah.
Listen,
I wonder how many FMVs are used over the course of the game.
I don't know.
I think that's
only
only one.
Started the game, and then I got to the first puzzle, and it was like really obnoxiously complicated. And I'm like, I don't want to spend 10 minutes dragging these things around. I mean, it's just kind of uselessly complicated. It did not have to be that complicated.
Can you still get to the Chris Houlihan room? Surely you can. I don't think I ever actually got to the Chris Houlihan room myself.
I've never been there either.
I remember trying, but I think I might. It's possible I might not have the right version of the game to do it.
There is a question there. There's nothing, like, nothing has been talked about in terms of jailbreak and ROMs on the system. There's no information out there at this time. Just to, I guess, nip it in the bud. For anybody. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Jenna SNES.
I love this game. It's been too long since I played all the way through it though.
Yeah,
I haven't done that either. I want to play through it again, but I just haven't had time to do it.
I mean, it doesn't take as long as you really think.
You did the randomizer, right? I don't know anything about the randomizer. I would be more interested in playing the randomizer if it was like all built into the into the ROM. If you just like randomize every time instead of having to like upload it and then.
I mean, I understand why though, because they wouldn't want. I think it might actually double the size of like a randomized file. ROM. I think the ROM file for a randomized run is actually double the size of a normal Link to the Past ROM.
Okay.
So it would probably just be too complicated.
But it does play on the SNES, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it plays on the Super UFO, so if it doesn't play on the SC2 SNES, then something's really wrong. The only thing that was weird, and I don't know if it was a UFO thing or what, as I continued to play the game, the overworld music got kind of screwed up. Like, I think certain instruments were, like, out of sync. Like, I'm pretty sure it wasn't like that early on. But, again, this was on real hardware. This was not on the Super NT.
It's a hack, so who knows?
Yeah. But, it was pretty fun because, like, I really feel like they could almost do something like that with, a follow-up to Breath of the Wild because, like, where... people would like find things that like in like different places. Like it's a defined world, but where you find things, it can be in an unexpected place.
Does a Super UFO work on there? Did you say you had that working?
Yep, it works.
Yeah, because
I tested a number of things on. Actually, in the video. If you remember, there was I was showing like the PAL version of F-Zero, and that was running off of that. And I did several things on there. There was a clip of Breath of Fire, Equinox, Breath of Fire, a couple other things were running off of the Super UFO. So yeah, it worked.
Yeah, because I know the Dr. SF6 works because I tested that with a 20-year-old disc that I had made and it still worked.
And that's the original. Well, I mean, to be clear, when I'm saying Super UFO, I'm talking about like the newer one, which is like SD card based.
Oh, not the disc based one.
Not the floppy disk UFO, because you can buy like the SD card UFO on Amazon.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know they made one.
Yeah. It's called the Super UFO Pro 8.
Is it Is it made by the same people, or did someone just use the name?
I think it's made by the same people. Hold on, let me get it off my shelf and show it.
I don't have my copier here. It's in the other room, the one that I was using.
It's actually really cool. I don't know how well you can see it here, but it's like a Super Famicom size cart. It's got an SD card slot on the side, and it's got you can remove the top, and it's actually got a cartridge connector. And so you can put a cartridge on top. You can dump. I was able to dump basically any ROM, although I think I don't think you can dump like SA1 games, but yeah, and you can dump the save RAM. But what's actually kind of interesting is you can use, like, this is Rockman X3. You can use you can't do SA1, but I think that might be the only exception. You can use, like, I could load the English Mega Man X3 ROM and use the C4 chip
in 2, right?
No. That actually didn't work. I tried like mixing and matching like X3 and X2, but you can do like another version of the same one. So if I wanted to play the English Mega Man X3 with the Rockman X3 cartridge on top, I can do that. So I think that's pretty fun. You can do the same thing with like Mario Kart, American and Japanese. You can use the DSP one chip. If you want to get like the Japanese victory animations in in Mario Kart, you can do that. But again, you can't. I was not able to, like, I thought like I would have assumed that the chip was basically the same in Mario Kart and Pilot Wings, but I couldn't play a Pilot Wings ROM with a Mario Kart cartridge. I really wanted to see if that was possible, but I couldn't get that to work. But yeah, Super UFO. I don't know if there's like a company name on this or anything, but it's called the Super UFO Pro 8. But yeah, it's not the floppy disk thing. I don't have that.
Yeah, that's the only one I knew of. I mean, there was also the multi-game hunter.
Game hunter.
Yeah, I know. There's like a, don't they call it the Game Hunter? Like there's like a unofficial Game Boy thing for N64 that I think is called Game Hunter.
I'm not sure.
I could be. It could have a different name, but there's this really obnoxious cartridge for N64 that's unofficial that can't play Game Boy music, but it can play Game Boy games.
Man,
so it's actually got like its own really awful sounding music that it plays instead of Game Boy sound.
Yeah, I remember that thing.
No, it's not the Wide Boy. Believe me, I have experience with the Wide Boy. If you watch the Game Boy video, it's not the Wide Boy. The Hunter or whatever is not was not featured in that episode because I knew about it, but I figured it wouldn't be worth the trouble of hunting one down. But because the music issue makes it like not a serious option at all anyway, so.
Yeah, they're just too lazy to pass the audio through. They'd have to digitize it and send it through the cartridge port, and they probably just didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Now,
Did you tell
people...
Kevin about the Commodore 64 footage, like the stuff that we went through to get the Commodore 64 stuff in there?
So we've been in contact for a while with a guy who is the video art curator at a museum. Talking about like CRT stuff, and he had like a bunch of like spare Commodore stuff that he was willing to sell us. And I just really wanted to show some Commodore stuff because I thought it sort of illustrated your history well, because that's kind of where you were kind of getting your interest in, doing, programming and hardware projects and things like that. And I just didn't have any access to Commodore 64 stuff. So originally I went to, my day job is at a university, and I went to the library and got out these old computer science books and just shot footage of looking in the books. But then this guy had the Commodore 64 stuff, and we're like, oh, well, we could actually use that now.
Because he had all the books and stuff too,
Yeah, he had manuals and magazines and the Commodore monitors and stuff, and so he sold us a good chunk of that stuff, which is good stuff for us to just have in general. We'll need it again in the future, but I was like, could you go ahead and prioritize sending this to us now, because it would actually be really cool to use in this video. So I actually received that stuff on Tuesday, and it was I was shooting. Yeah, it was the last thing I needed to do other than make backgrounds for my segments. So I was shooting footage of the Commodore 64 stuff at 1 in the morning, and the video released at 11 in the morning. Yeah, but I thought it was pretty fun. I thought the shots came out pretty nicely.
Yeah.
Speaking of how I had to get backgrounds for me, I don't know if anyone really caught on, but we always do RGB videos on a green screen with a game is the background. We always have a different game. We never recycle background games or backgrounds within an episode. So mine was that normal RGB style with the scan lines, and Corey was our non-RGB episode style, which is he was just shooting on camera, real background and stuff. So I don't know if anyone caught on, but that was kind of since the episode was kind of half documentary, half RGB, we did it that way. Also, I always pull the wrong lever there too.
Yeah, for some reason I thought I was pulling the right one. It's I think I remember. This is
yeah. I always pull the wrong one.
The first time you kind of go outside, I remember very vividly the first time you go outside here and the Zelda theme kicks in, and it just it always sounded so awesome.
Yeah, but you're playing with a hack. So
I know,
it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, it's still gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a big moment because they didn't have that music in Zelda 2.
Speaking of, I saw somebody mention the buffer mode. I should switch to a different one just for the heck of it.
Someone says play Hong Kong 97.
Okay.
Hong Kong 97, sure. I kind of want to see the title screen with the gradient, with the gamma boost on and off, and that Air Strike Patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put it onto the single buffer.
So there's been a change to how fully buffered operates. Is that right?
There's not been any change to it, as far as I know.
Because it was, I thought, just a frame drop. But then when I was testing out something on more recent firmware, it looked like there was a small tear at the top of the screen instead of a dropped frame on fully buffered.
It should be a dropped frame on fully buffered and then tearing on single buffered.
Well, there was. I can send you a clip.
Oh, Hong Kong 97.
And I saw it in a few other instances where
why not have it on here? I don't have it on here.
On fully buffered,
Sorry.
just the top maybe 1/6 of the screen did a tear.
Oh,
instead
okay.
of a complete dropped frame.
I'll look
But
into it just to make sure I didn't break anything.
Yeah, I think that was on maybe starting with firmware 3.8
Let's try the
or
Death and
something.
Return of Superman MSU. I wonder if it has like music from the John
The
Williams
movie.
score. That'd be awesome if it did.
I don't even know anything about that game. Is it
Because
considered any
Blizzard
good?
made it.
Really?
Believe it or not. I don't know what to expect from this. It's not sounding too good yet. It would be amazing if I had like the John Williams music in it though. Yeah. It's really hard to do a Superman game right. I don't think it's ever been done really.
Well, it's pretty hard to make any kind of licensed game correct either.
True. This feels a lot like the Batman Returns, the Konami beat 'em up.
I kind of like its walking animation. Like, it's kind of goofy, but I kind of like it.
It's always kind of hard to make a superhero game where the superhero can die so easily too.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially, Superman should just be like plowing through these guys. This is just like a waste of his time, it seems like.
Smoke Monster said this is not John Williams music. It's just MIDI. So
But
He would know.
someone should get on that. If nobody has done that. Just all you need to do is just have like the Superman theme for every level, pretty much.
yeah, basically that'd work.
Oh, kind of like the Simpsons game on the Nintendo.
Oh, does it just have the
Oh,
It's
really?
just the title screen. It's just the title music from the Simpsons, at least on whichever one that was, where you have to spray paint everything.
I played the MSU one of Aladdin earlier today with my daughter, and she was like super into it.
Oh, yeah?
With the movie music, yeah.
Do they have like the musical songs?
Yeah, it didn't have any singing.
Oh, okay.
But some of the cutscenes have, like voices from the movie. It's pretty cool.
Oh, like did they use like FMV?
No, it just has it over the cutscenes.
Oh, okay. That's neat.
Yeah. Let's see. They do have a version of Final Fight with the Sega CD soundtrack.
Oh. What about Sega CD Colors?
No. I mean, it's an inferior game, anyways. There is a version of Dracula X with the Rondo of Blood music. So we'll
Oh
do
wow,
that.
there's Final Fantasy 6. Like
There's Chrono Trigger
playing
as well.
through. Yeah. Well, but with Chrono Trigger, like you have to actually have like the CD, right?
Not anymore. The version I have doesn't need it.
I mean, well, we both have the CD. Well, no, yours is not the 3-disc thing, right? Yours is just like the PlayStation 1 style, right? Which is not even an official thing.
Right.
So this is with PC Engine music, Rondo.
Yeah, which is oh, you can really see the tear, right? If when you walk, you'll be able to see it. So it's a slow enough moving game where you can kind of see it pretty good.
Oh, is this single buffer you're on now?
Yeah.
That fire in the background, that's an HDMI effect right there too.
Oh, okay, that makes
They're
sense.
changing the scroll registers every scan line or two.
So basically, DMA and HDMA effects don't take extra memory, but the CPU is basically just telling it on a per scan line basis, like this is how this should look.
Well, basically what happens, like on the NES, if you want to do a scan line effect, you either had to do cycle time code or use interrupts or both. And then the CPU is kind of stuck, it's waiting for that interrupt, and
Oh, okay.
it can never be really exact. So that's why, like on Mario 3, there's that little flickering between the stats
Okay.
of the game. That's an IRQ effect right there. So with
I
the
like-
HDMA, it happens in H blank, so that means you have none of those, that tearing or, bad, flashing pixels or any of that.
Now, a lot of games, well, not a lot of games, but like when NES games try to do like a sort of parallax effect, it's always like you can't have it with like actual shapes. It's always like just moving along a straight line.
Yeah, because they just split the screen up and scroll different parts at different rates.
Right. And Super Nintendo does that a lot too, when they want to look like more layers.
Well, like on that Cool Spot game, they break one of the background layer into, I think, about 20 parts and scroll each one separately.
Oh, wow.
It makes it look, pretty good, and that's HDMA again, because, it doesn't really take very many resources, so they can do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and Donkey Kong Country does that big time, like with like the trees in the background and stuff.
Yeah, that's an HDMA gradient, and I think it's color map also. They do both.
Yeah, and it also has that flicker, so it's doing a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fortunately on the Super Nintendo, that's really easy to do, and that's one thing like the Genesis doesn't have. It doesn't have HDMA, so if you want to do those effects, it's not so easy.
One of the things I thought was interesting where you, in the interview, as you were talking that the Super Nintendo can access RAM every single cycle.
Yeah, it can.
And the Genesis can only access RAM every 8 cycles. Am I right on that?
Uh-huh.
So, like how many cycles are there per frame?
I can whip out the calculator and tell you.
Because it just seems like that just surprised me, because that just seems really limiting that you couldn't access RAM that is very often.
Well, on the Super Nintendo, when you're running in slow ROM, it's 2.6 million cycles a second.
Oh, wow.
And then in fast ROM, it's 3. Here, let me divide that out. Let's see.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot, but it's probably not.
It's quite a few, really. In fast ROM, you're talking 3.5 million. And on the Genesis, it's running at burst times 2. The CPU runs at 7.1 something megahertz, and it takes 8. So the Genesis has about 900 kilohertz, for its memory access.
So when the Genesis does like that, sort of, I assume that is also moving a single background layer on a per scan line basis, like you see in Sonic on the water or whatever. Like Genesis also does that a lot, where it looks like it's got a ton of layers. Is that similar to how Super Nintendo is doing it, or is it?
I think they use interrupts for that. So they have a scan line interrupt, and they can set them off every couple scan lines, and then the CPU has to change like the scrolling and stuff. So on the Super Nintendo just does it quote unquote automatically. Once you set it up, it'll just keep doing it, every frame, and you don't have to do anything.
I'm really, really bad at this game.
This is kind of an annoying version of the game. Like it's not bad. I mean, people make it out to be really bad. I mean, it's not a bad game, but it is a lower tier Castlevania for sure.
I'm gonna play the what is it? Power Instinct? Is that what it's on? There it is. I'm gonna play it. That's an Atlas game.
The games that probably got the most questions in the episode about what game is this, I would say, were Cybernator and Run Saber. Run Saber got a lot of what game?
It is a fighting game. It looks like. This guy.
Yeah, there are so many fighting games on the Super Nintendo. I got sick and tired after about the first 10.
Yeah, it's like you just need like Street Fighter 2, and that's pretty much it.
60 of them.
Well, from the time lapse footage you sent me of doing the the testing all the games on with the SC2 SNES. I mean, you got bogged down in bass fishing games pretty early on.
Yeah, there's a lot of fishing games and there's a lot of baseball games. Man, I can't believe how many baseball games there are.
So is there any oh shoot, I just backed out of the game. I didn't mean to. I meant to bring up the main menu. Is there anything wrong with if I wanted to leave the launch system timing on all the time? You think it's
the only thing I found that didn't work with the launch system timing was the Game Saver Plus.
okay? So it's okay if I just like leave it on.
Yeah. If you're not having problems, you can leave it on. The only thing that really fixes is the Game Genie, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
And the Game Genie is really poorly designed. It was designed extremely early on, and it doesn't even work right with high ROM games.
Mm.
It'll replace 2 separate bytes in the high ROM game instead of just 1.
Would it?
I noticed in that game that Corey was just playing that it was using flicker shadows. Like, what reason would there be to use flicker shadows instead of, as you call it, the color math? Why wouldn't they do that?
There's probably a couple reasons with the flicker shadow. The reason they flicker it, and maybe using color math also, is that way they need 1 shadow for both players, so that saves them.
Oh, okay. That does make sense.
Gunman Clive does work.
Someone asked me, any plans to add a couple more color options to the LED menu?
There's like a ridiculous amount of them already.
Yeah, but you can also load your own patterns. If you don't like the patterns that are in there, you can just make one and load it.
How do you design that?
How do you like, what kind of software would you use to make the pattern?
Well, I just make them with Quick Basic, but it's basically 256 RGB triples in the file. They'll just cycle through them. Or you can fix
I like
it on one. What?
I like the K Pro rainbow in the clear unit. Like, it just makes all the colors come through on the clear unit. I did a lot of shots in the video using that.
Yeah, I saw that. On the NT Mini, the color pattern files worked from that on this also.
I really like how the LED, like the NT Mini LED is pretty cool. How it's just this like wee tiny little dot. But I do like how this kind of looks like a Super Famicom system LED.
Yeah, I made mine purple.
Super Nintendo.
But it's interesting, like it's purple, but if I look at it kind of an angle, I can see like the red and blue.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Like the way I'm looking at it now, and I can see the separation kind of. I don't know.
So what's the story behind Gunman Clive here? It's a homebrew game, right?
Well, I mean, it's on the 3DS.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Well, they obviously didn't want to use any color except red and yellow for some reason.
Is it is this made by the people who made the 3DS game?
Yeah, it's one person, I think.
Okay.
Let's see. I saw someone say Axelay. We'll play some Axelay.
Are there really any interesting sort of proofs of concept or prototypes or something? Like, I remember you asked us to try on the NT Mini when we were streaming last time. There was this really cool like Stunt Race FX Game Boy prototype sort of thing. I mean, it was just like something someone threw together that was like crazy impressive, and you thought it was cool that it worked because emulators struggle with it.
Yeah, that's a really neat ROM. I really like that.
Can you think of anything similar on the Super Nintendo that might happen to be on his ST2 SNES that we could try?
I don't know. I mean, he's gone through quite a few good games, so.
Is Smoke Monster still around in the chat? Know of anything that you think would be fun for something would be unusual for Corey to try on the system?
Yeah, there's a lot on there. I just updated it a couple weeks ago too.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective effect on this game.
Yeah, this is such a cool looking game. It alternates between like levels like this and side-scrolling ones. But yeah,
it's a pretty early game, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, maybe 92.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's got a lot of HDMA going on, that gradient at the top of the screen, that blue light, and then the whole gameplay area. That's one giant HDMA effect to get all that like perspective effect.
Yeah, you know, at first I thought it was mode 7, but is it just squishing and unsquishing a flat layer?
Yeah, I think it is. It's just changing the scroll to squish it up and expand just the tile layer, I think is what it's doing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat effect.
Die, but this is kind of a pricey game too these days. It's a Konami game.
Yeah, I think, talking about the whole, like slowdown thing, I think the reason a lot of Super Nintendo games have slowdown is the way they've programmed it, because the CPU is, the 65816, it can do 8 and 16-bit stuff, and there's like an instruction you use to switch between them, and when I was looking at the game code, it's just that stuff is just everywhere, and, that's got to have a lot of overhead.
If I remember, when you started some of the reverse engineering process, you said you pulled some chip out of an Apple machine. Is that right?
Yeah, the CPU, the 65816, and that's
so
how
the SNES CPU uses the same CPU, exact same CPU as an Apple computer?
Yeah, only they use just the core. It's not the diff chip in the Apple, but it's the exact same CPU core.
Interesting.
We verified this because I had the chips decapped, after I was done with the project. It would have been nice to have them before, but it didn't happen. But it was just kind of nice to see it later on.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just the 65816 core is just slapped down on the chip there. So that's how I got, the accuracy on the CPU. I didn't have to really debug the CPU once it was done. It just worked everywhere. I didn't have to fix anything on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so interesting to think about how, back in the day, I thought, Nintendo and Sega and all of them, they made their own hardware, they created it, and they picked and chose the parts and designed how it would all work together, but they aren't exactly microprocessor manufacturers. I mean, that's just outside their wheelhouse. They use modified versions of off-the-shelf parts or unmodified.
Well, I can't. Someone wanted to know the URL for the decaps, and it won't let me post the URL for it.
Oh, try. You can probably do it. Try, really quick. Is the Satellaview is the Shubibinman? Is that a Satellaview?
Yeah, Shubibinman 0. Mm-hmm, it's a Satellaview game. You should try it.
I don't know if it's on here.
Kevin, post the link in the Skype chat, and I can paste that into the stream chat.
Okay. Let me get that real quick.
I don't see Shubibinman in here. Let's see.
It's like, it might be like Kaizou's. I think it starts with like a Kai something.
Kaizou. There it is. Kaizou Choujin Shubibinman 0. Here we go.
Yeah. It's like the easiest game in the world, but it's pretty fun.
So, for people that want to go to this URL, the chips are the S-CPU-A, and then the S-PPU1 and 2, and then the S-CPUN is the one chip die shot.
Take a quick look at that.
What do I got to do here? Do you know what I need to do?
Wait, I think is this it?
Yeah, but
this is not it. Oh,
No,
you're like setting up Satellaview.
Yeah.
Oh, you're like in this. Is this like the Satellaview menu or something?
Yeah, this is This is usually how it goes here.
Oh, I just noticed that you're still in single buffer mode because I just saw the screen tear.
Yeah, I was kind of confused on the Satellaview how to make it work.
Well, it works. It works fine. I don't know how to get to that.
So you have to like.
I mean, how do you get to play the game? You have to go into one of these doors, and I mean, it's just kind of like, where's Waldo?
Maybe I can go into the police station. That one looks like it's open. I just want to play Shubibinman. Go in the house and load game from the menu. Okay. I don't know which house. This one, hopefully.
Like I said, it's like, where's Waldo? You know, without instructions, it's pretty hard. They're like, house, but okay, where's that?
Well, looks
oh,
like that
go.
red house that you came out of, maybe.
Yeah. Hopefully it's the top option. I guess we'll see.
That probably explains why
Say
when I
Giga?
was
So
I wanted to when I was recording some clips for Hagane, I wanted to use some Satellaview. Like I wanted to try out those
Here it is.
Kirby Satellaview games, but it wouldn't let me load them, and that's probably why, because you have to have like this interface on top of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do.
It's
Shubibinman.
Musya, the same developer that did the
Assault Suit series.
Cybernator. Yeah, Assault Suit. I almost used some music from this game in the video.
Here he is. Is that Shubibinman?
Well, this game actually, the main characters are not the same characters from the other games. There's like you can play as a boy or a girl in either game, in all the games, but I think the boy and girl are different in this game than the others. And also, I don't think you can play as the girl unless you're in 2-player mode. Like, I think if you're playing single player, it's only the boy.
Is this a 2-button game? You just punch and jump?
Yeah, I think so. And you can,
I picked up a video game cassette and some gold.
you can like do a sweep attack with your feet by hitting down and Y.
This was the one a lot of people asked about this game in the comments.
Yeah, some people did ask about this. I'm noticing.
Oh, you can do it's like a dragon punch.
I'm noticing some scanline junk on the top and bottom. But I feel like that could be from the SD2 SNES implementation, because I've got like a repro cartridge of this game. Like it was like kind of semi-officially released in Japan like last year. Like not by Nintendo, but like I mean it was official through the publisher, the whoever owned the rights to the game, and it did not have that scanline junk. Because you can see the clip in the video, it doesn't have that. The one thing that I noticed with like a weird scanline
I can kind of
effect.
see it like when you're walking right there. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, I see it too.
I noticed a weird scanline effect when I ran Mario 3. I mean, it could have happened in the other Mario All-Stars games, but I was playing Mario 3. If I used the PAL cartridge and set to NTSC mode, then the top scan line flickered, which I just thought was an interesting thing. But obviously, that's running the game like it's not supposed to be anyway, so...
You know what I still like to do is on the NES is, when you have friends over or whatever, you really want to make them question their sanity. You play the PAL version of Super Mario Brothers, and you don't tell them.
It's like Mario's
I
like
do
all
like
fast.
that. See, I didn't know that this was possible. I think it's interesting that where is it? Is it under hardware? You can have it check your TV, like what it's capable of displaying.
Yeah, it shows it. That's what it detects.
Yeah, and I tried saying it to 50 hertz and it did work, but it still looked pretty stuttery. So I guess I feel like my TV is like locked into 60 hertz intervals.
Did you put it in 50 hertz and then did you put it in PAL?
I think I did.
Otherwise, it's gonna do a 60 to 50 hertz pull down if you don't.
Right. I might have to check that out again because why is it saying your monitor doesn't support 1080p?
I don't know why, but I think it's interesting that my monitor supports 720p 50 and 576 50.
Yeah. So, but you are playing in 1080p, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh.
No, I don't think you are.
Well, it does say 1080p.
No, that's yeah, but see if you check 1080p, and then if it can't
to the width and height,
it'll go to 720, and then it'll go to 480 if it can't do 720.
I just switched it. I don't know. I didn't mean to. You know, it's like I can't get back.
The start. You have to hit the start button to change.
Resolutions.
Resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
I guess kind of is to make it a little harder to do on accident. I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
So I
go to the width and height menu and see if you can tell if you're in 1080.
I mean, I'm in 1080.
Yeah, but check the width and height. It'll tell you if you really are or not. Because even though you set it to 1080, that's the highest possible resolution the system will try to output. But if it can't, then it'll do the next one it can. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it isn't.
I wonder if it's because is some of your splitting going to the PEX HD cap?
No, but you know it said it yesterday. I don't know.
That's weird.
I mean, I don't know. What is it? 365?
Something like 1365, something like that.
Yeah.
That I like.
And how did you were telling me how you kind of determined that number? It was like it took you forever, right? Then you have to like match up every single.
Oh, it actually didn't take very long at all. So, and I'd like to point out that the horizontal position of 38 and the vertical position of 42 were my suggestions. Those are the defaults now, because I recorded something from every game I have, and I actually took my recordings into Premiere and like scaled them up and like, checked like what was exact center, particularly for horizontal. And every single game, 38 was exact center. The only exception I found to that in what I recorded was that the battle scenes in, I think, Dragon Quest VI, it was either 3 or 6. The battle scenes in the game were shifted the other way a little. Well, not the other way, but they weren't shifted as much. So, but like the way that most games are drawn,
maybe this is Shubibinman. I have to find out.
Yeah, that was the center point. But yeah, it actually didn't take that long to come up with the aspect ratio. Like I just basically figured out, like in a game that doesn't use letterboxes, like how could I fill the screen without losing anything and have that centered? Like I filled the max vertical space that you could actually use. And then I just took a full video shot of my PVM and centered it exactly, and then I just did a few passes. I just recorded the footage, imported into Premiere, and just did it until it was the exact same aspect as my PVM, which is less wide than like the 4x3 on the OSSC, which actually I should have tested if like the 4x3 on the Super NT is exactly the same as 4x3 on the OSSC. I'm not sure. I didn't test that because it was actually interesting because, you know, getting used to the aspect ratio that I dialed in, like I thought it seemed really natural. And then when I was like playing on the real Super Nintendo on the OSSC, I was like, this looks too fat.
It's amazing the kind of things you can figure out when you have had all that time, I guess.
Yeah, like I say, I'm really glad that we had the hardware as soon as we did, because we would not have been able to release it on time. And it's been our fastest growing video ever.
Yeah.
Like
we had more views in the first 24 hours than any other video we've ever done.
Right. Yeah, it was like.
I mean, that's understandable though. I mean, there was a lot of hype. And
yeah.
I like that it kind of slows down a little bit when you hit somebody with the fireball. It's like a very subtle kind of slow motion effect.
It's a pretty decent game, right?
Yeah, it is really easy though.
Yeah.
I saw Smoke Monster saying that like the whole BIOS thing is like actually not supposed to be in there.
Oh, okay.
And he was accidentally including it for the last year, he said. I always thought that it needed to happen. I don't know. It's always just whenever I've tried them. It is pretty kind of a cool game. Is it that long?
No. I mean, I beat it in like an hour.
Did you ever
couldn't
die?
you only play these games for an hour or something, or is that only just certain ones?
Oh, well, like on the Super NT?
No, the like the Satellaview stuff. Because I thought that's how like Zelda was. You could only play it for an hour or something like that.
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Or you can only play it like once a day or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Like sort of you know, to help mom not have to keep tabs on how long you're playing games or something. But no, I mean, when I beat this game, it was like back in the summer, I want to think, and it was on a real SNES. But yeah, it was like an hour. But yeah, like the most I played on the Super NT was Lost Vikings. I mean, I played the whole game, but you know, I played the other games that I recorded. You know, some more than others, but
So there's a in the game series collections, there's best of lists and all these other things where it just like sorts out the games, and there is a where I just saw it. Where'd it go? There's like the top. The best shoot 'em ups on the system by GameSack. They get their own category.
Oh, well, we need to make one up now.
Yeah. Play some R-Type 3. How about? It's a good game. This is a game I think that the GameSpot review showed this game a lot in there, and I was like, oh, you know, I know it's expensive in the U.S. Let's see how much the Japanese version is, and it's still pretty expensive. Whoa. You all right?
Well, I was trying to move the camera, it wasn't quite centered, so I thought I'd try to center it a little better, and whoops.
It's just the way that it's in because the monitor space is small.
It's pretty small, yeah.
Yeah, I probably need to be like leaning over a little bit more. Whoa! Thank you, Virtual Basement Limited Liability Corporation, $50.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very much appreciated.
Well, Virtual Basement, I'll play any game that you want me to play. I can't promise that I'll be good at it, but if there's anything you want to see me play on the Super NT, I will absolutely play it right now.
This opening scene here was on John's video.
Oh yeah, he used some stuff from this. I mean, it's
It
such a
looked
cool.
awesome.
I love that. You know, it kind of comes from the inside of the. You kind of see the core of the R9, which is the ship. This game is so much better than Super R-Type.
I used the Super UFO to
play Super R-Type to capture.
to play Super R-Type to show slowdown, which thankfully there was some decent slowdown in the title demos.
Oh, it's the R90 in this.
Virtual Basement Limited Liability Corporation wants you to play Plok.
Okay, well.
Oh yeah, Plok.
Plok. I played a decent bit of Plok.
Yeah, that's a pretty fun game. I played it too. It gets really hard though.
Yeah, definitely.
So I know that there's like some other people like involved with like the aesthetics of the system. You know, like Corey Schmidt did like the Schmitz did the like the logo, and did he design the actual system itself? I don't know. I know he did like he did like the branding of it, like just the people that were like also involved.
Well, Ernest did all of the industrial design and manufacturing and packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an analog employee, right?
Yeah.
But like the menu animation and the
Phil Fish
logo,
did something, right? Then
that was someone else, right?
Yeah, that was Phil Fish, I guess.
Oh, so he did like the kind of just like maybe like the spinning cart and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I had to implement it all in the menu. So basically, I received graphics and animated GIFs, and then I was supposed to make it look like that.
Now
I didn't do the intro animations though. I didn't do those.
Was that
obviously.
Square Pusher, or did they just do the sound effect?
Just a sound effect, as far as I know. I'm not 100% sure on that.
So the menu system and like the intro animation, is that running on the SNES hardware, or is that kind of a separate thing?
No, it's separate. There's an entire control hypervisor, if you will, that controls all that stuff.
Which is why you can operate it on top of the game.
Yeah, same with the NT Mini. It's got a similar thing too. It's like on the AVS, that actually has an NES ROM that runs the menu, so that's why you can't access the menu while a game is running.
Right, which I always actually thought was pretty interesting, that it's just like, it is a ROM. Like, you could, in theory, load that ROM up on a flash card, the menu ROM on a flash card, play it on real hardware. It wouldn't do anything, but it'd just be interesting.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to try to extract it and do that just for the fun of it. I just thought that'd be an interesting little project. I don't know how easy it is or anything, but I just thought it was interesting just to see what it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot more that you can do with it in this particular implementation, but I do like sort of it's almost a poetic simplicity of, the menu is actually just an NES ROM run on NES hardware, That's cool.
Well, I just didn't want to do it that way because you can't access the menu when you're in a game, so it makes it hard if you're trying to tweak the size of the screen or whatever. Yeah. You're kind of stuck.
And I love how it's like how it kind of darkens the game image, and you can see. You can see what you're doing, especially with like the interpolation. Like, it just makes the scaling look so smooth as you do it.
Yeah. I have a proprietary interpolation algorithm for that.
Yeah, it's really good. There's like basically no reason not to use it.
I always keep it on. You can't even really hardly tell. The only way you can tell it's on is if you do a direct, turning it on and off, and then you can see it.
Let's see if I can.
Yeah, but I think it's it's more useful to turn it off, like if it's 480p or 720p. Like it definitely makes a difference. Like especially the vertical, because in 720p there's no reason to use vertical interpolation because it's going to be a 3x scale anyway, you know? So you don't need it. But
I'm gonna turn it off just for the heck of it.
it's like it's very, very minor. And so I think it's worth having it on so that you can use whatever vertical sizing and aspect ratio that you want.
Yeah. You know, this time versus like the NT Mini, I wanted full scaling ability so you can control it in both directions instead of just fixed. But
Yeah,
on NT Mini, it was kind of hard because there's no frame buffer. So now I have a full frame buffer to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants me to do the HQ4X. I saw, not everybody. I'm sure nobody wants me to do it, but I saw one person say, "Yeah, use the." You know,
well, you should play it in X-ray.
If I remember right, wasn't X-ray like a mistake that you made while you were developing the high def NES?
No, X-ray is actually it's kind of a debug. What it shows you is the parts that are white are pixels that the HQX will actually like fix up, and black is pixels that will not. So if you watch, it's on the edges of things, and that's where the HQX works. It fixes up edges.
Okay, I thought I remembered watching one of your videos on the high def NES, and I thought you said like there was some feature in the system that was actually a mistake and you thought it looked cool, so you kept it anyway. Maybe I'm remembering wrong.
I can't remember what that was now. That was a couple projects ago. Well, I may have called this sort of a mistake. It actually really isn't. It's a debug. And I just thought it looked really interesting because it just shows you the edges of things. But that's why it's in there, and that's what it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of a silly thing I threw in there just for the fun of it. I don't expect anybody to actually use it.
I'm just going around the menu and just doing some different stuff. So the hybrid scan lines, I saw some people talking about it. Is that best with the gamma boost on? Kind of gives almost like an ultra HDMI look to it, right?
Sort of, yeah. I'm going to retool the scan lines totally and make them a bit better. I just haven't had time to do it. So I was going to add that or fix those up and then add full ability with a slider for the gamma control. So you can
that'd be neat.
Set anything you want. And I was going to have a lot more scan line options so you control, various aspects of it instead of just being on and off and just the depth. I was going to have you be able to control like the hybrid effect and stuff like that.
Like sort of the bloom. Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, that'd be great.
That's exactly it. So
like I know on like the Ultra HDMI, like it kind of has like that curved edge on like brighter areas.
Yeah, I want to add that. That's one of the major things I was going to add.
Yeah, because that I think is like the most convincing, like PVM sort of equivalent I've seen, at least outside of like some super high-end emulator overlay, which I haven't really messed with a lot, but like as far as using real hardware, that's probably the coolest scan lines that I've seen is the Ultra HDMI.
Is there any games that the cropping like has any effect on? I mean,
I'm not really sure, to be honest. It's just in there because it's in the scaler, so I was like, I'll just throw it in there.
Yeah, may as well. Like that'd be way more useful with like Genesis, like Game Rail, like the dots or the color borders and stuff. Like that would be more useful on a system like that than like NES, where NES, like some games it's easy to like some games like the whole screen looks pretty good, but other games like a lot of the screen doesn't look good, like Mario 3 or Kirby's Adventure. Can you think of any examples of any other examples of games that use that that third option in the menu in the extra features menu, the thing that does the Kirby's Dream Land 3 thing? Are there any other games that use that trick?
Yeah, Jurassic Park uses it for that annoying overlay that always pops up when you're trying to play the game.
Jurassic Park 2,
Okay.
because
I've
Virtual
never
Basement
played.
LLC is asking for Jurassic Park 2. Wonder how Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues runs. I'll try that after this one, after ActRaiser 2.
Well, hey, the importer with $5. Thank you.
With a question for
Says, sup guys, it's been a while. Question for Kevtris. What are the chances of seeing other 16-bit core in the Super NT?
No comment.
No comment.
Sorry.
How do I go down? What do I got to do here? Oh, there it is on the stream. Okay, it just popped up. There's always a little bit of a delay.
However, I think what you could say though is that if I'm not mistaken, Super Nintendo is the first 16-bit core that you have developed. Before, up till now, it's only been 8-bit, right?
Well, the Intellivision, that's 16 bits.
Oh, okay.
That's more 16-bit than the Super Nintendo.
In a technical sense. Now, what is in the Commodores? Because you haven't done Commodore 64, have you?
Well, you saw that SID player thing
You've done the sound chip, but you haven't done like the whole system, right?
Well, that's the whole system. The only thing it doesn't have is video rendering. That actually, there's like SID tunes that run in BASIC. It actually boots BASIC and then looks for the flashing cursor in memory, and that's how it knows it's booted. Then it actually types run and then runs it. Interesting.
So what? I mean, I don't even know what the 64 and Commodore 64 actually stands for. Like,
That's how much RAM it has.
Okay,
yeah, that's why there's a 128.
So it's an 8-bit system then, right?
It's an 8-bit system, yes.
Ah.
Is there any reason that you don't have a fully playable core for Commodore 60? Is it input or what?
Well, the main reason is of that dirty D word, the disk drive. But, I do have a 1541 I bought at the Hamfest for $10.
There's some yellow.
But the other reason I just haven't had time to do it. So I have that SID player. It's a complete 64. The only thing it's missing is it has the VIC emulation or simulation or whatever in there. But it doesn't have video output, but it has everything else because some of the tunes use like interrupts and things like that.
Yeah, I knew there had to be something like preventing it from being like a fully functional thing, but it sounds like it's closer to working than I had realized.
Oh yeah, I could probably make it start playing games in maybe a couple days or a week. I mean, there's really not a lot I have to do to make it work.
But the disk drive, the way that games are read, is that kind of a tricky thing?
Well, the disk drive is a whole nother 6502 based computer, basically.
Oh, well, yeah, because I couldn't believe it because I had a Commodore VIC-20 growing up, but didn't use it much, and so I was really surprised when this box of Commodore stuff arrived. I mean, the disk drive thing might be as heavy or as large as the Commodore computer itself.
It's
ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I paid $10 for it. It was still in the box, so I don't know if it's new or not, but I was just going to hook that up to the FPGA and just use it directly for testing and then pull it in. But the disk drive honestly doesn't look that bad to do these days. The only problem is I'll have to convert the disks into what amounts to the magnetic transitions, store that. Then I'll have like what amounts to a thing that reads the memory, kind of like reading a disk, how it spins. So it'll like read the data, in the RAM over and over and over. And like a virtual read head will actually read that data, and that's how I'll make it work.
This is not what I was expecting from Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues. It's like a run and gun.
Does it seem any good?
Kinda. I think it might be 2 players too.
Well, someone was asking me, can you explain to use the way DMA was affecting the way certain games to glitch initially before release? Well, I kind of explained it a bit on the Equinox thing. But, I mean, there was just a lot of weird things like that Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Apparently that fails on, like, some one-chip models because it does a really weird HDMA effect where they turn it on partway in the frame.
I don't know if I have to...
What? Well, one of my favorite sort of accidents that happened in editing the video, like it's right at the end when we're talking about like how N64 would be pretty difficult to pull off, and I recorded a few Ultra HDMI N64 clips, and this one clip of Mario 64 I recorded was
Oh, we got another. Keep an eye on the chat. There's or on the video. There's a $3 donation from Potbelly Punch, and it has a lot of text there. I can't see. It's too far away.
If a hypothetical Mega NT was to happen, 32X is probably out of the question due to computational complexity. But could Sega CD be a possibility? I'd love to have and then it's cut off.
Well, yeah, 32X probably would never happen on an FPGA, and Sega CD, I don't know. It's a whole nother Genesis, isn't it? It's got another 68K and all that, so it'd be pretty difficult.
Yeah, so I don't know. Does Sega CD use Genesis processing? I assumed it did.
Yeah, it does, but it's its own little console in and of itself, too.
Right, it's got extra chips with extra hardware.
There is a lot of hardware in that thing. I took one apart, and I was surprised at how much hardware is in that thing.
So,
I mean, it'd be pretty hard.
So you think 32X is relatively out of the question?
32X is definitely out of the question for several reasons. One of them, being just the computational reasons, but the other is that video pass-through. You wouldn't be able to plug in a 32X and have it work, or it would work, but the video overlay wouldn't work because you have to pass the RGB through the 32X itself.
And you couldn't do that internally, like just without it ever converting to analog?
No, because it doesn't. There's no way to know what it is on the cartridge port.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean? So the only way you'd be able to do it is if you had like an A to D converter and a D to A converter for the video, which would be expensive and it'd be expensive and space hungry and all
so
that.
How do emulators do 32X?
Well, they can just do it internally. It's not a problem. They have the processing power to do it. If I was to do it on an FPGA with 32X, it would all be internal also.
So when you say that PlayStation is possible, is it just because it's, as far as 32-bit systems go, it's relatively streamlined in its design, or?
Well, the PlayStation, it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't run that fast and such, so I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. But there's a lot of involved to make it into a FPGA.
Oh, I'm sure.
It'd be,
but it's possible.
Yeah, I'm sure it's possible, but N64 definitely is not possible simply because of the speed of it.
I remember you said something about there were specifically sort of RAM, the type of RAM it uses was a concern?
Yeah, it uses a RAM bus.
It's Flashback. I don't know if it's just the game or what. It's definitely it seems like it's like slowing down a lot. I don't know if it's how this version of the game is though. I played it on the Genesis originally. It's a great game. Try, did you ever play this?
This seems like I don't think I have. I still haven't played any of the
like Out of This World.
Yeah, I haven't played any of those rotoscope SNES games. I want to though. Apparently, those slowdowns are normal on SNES.
Oh, okay. I mean, this is a game I think you'd like this. Kevin, what are your favorite pizza toppings? I think that's what HPR Shredder is asking. How do I get down?
Mine are pepperoni, sausage, and mushroom.
I like banana peppers a lot.
Oh, Potbelly Punch is asking if is there a major challenge to making Genesis audio accurate in FPGA? That's something I've wondered too. Do you know anything?
Yeah, it'd be pretty hard to get the accurate Genesis audio. I mean, I'm sure I can do it, but it would. I don't know. It probably wouldn't be as bad as Super Nintendo audio. That was really horrible. That took like 2 weeks to do it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a whole CPU, and then you got the DSP in there and all that. So, it's like a whole nother computer in and of itself with its own set of timing and, edge cases and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds pretty darn great, for sure. But yeah, Genesis is just like the trickiest thing to like get sounding right, like in an emulator. Like I always like. Whenever I want to use Genesis music, like I always try to actually record it for real instead of like just downloading something, because usually if it's downloaded, it's from an emulator.
Well, that's one of my favorite things about that. A feature that I have not used nearly enough, I guess, on the SC to SNES is the SPC music player. And
yeah, what about it?
It's just.
Oh, I can show that off. It's right here.
Yeah. He's got a physical SPC player here.
Oh, okay.
So here's my SPC player. Here, I'll put it in the middle so everybody can see it. So what this does, this plays SPCs. It takes an SD card, of course. Has an LCD, capacitive buttons, and a slider, and all that fun stuff. And there's a video on my YouTube channel of that working, actually.
So, and there's a brief clip in our video showing it working. It's got all these lights and stuff. So, is that basically an FPGA SPC, an FPGA Super Nintendo sound chip? And then
it's a Cyclone 3 FPGA. It's the same core as the one that's in the Super NT, but obviously there's a lot of bugs in it. I fixed all those bugs, but this was made in 2012 or 13. We got a laser cutter at work, and I decided to make this this plastic enclosure for it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching. I was looking at the time lapse you sent me of testing games. I noticed that it looked like your SID player was like running like the whole time. You just leave your SID player running all the time.
It's all the time. It's running right now. It just runs 24 hours a day. It's right there.
So what track is it playing right now?
It says Super Tazen or Super Robot Tazen. That's what I was demoing when you guys were here, and that's what it's still sitting on from then. But my videos where I have SID tunes or whatever playing in them, that is what's playing all of that music. Actually, is that box right there.
Okay.
So every video that I do a time lapse or whatever, and I have like SID tunes playing, that is what actually generates them.
So I forget, is that orange device, is that FPGA or not?
Of course it's FPGA.
Okay. Because you've made others that were hardware based.
Yeah, I made one with a 65816 in it. In fact, that's the chip I actually used to develop the Super NT was that very CPU, and then I put it back in it when I was done.
Okay.
I saw someone ask, is there any chance of getting an SBC player like in the actual firmware? Like how?
I was thinking about it actually.
Could you do it? Oh, go ahead.
Mhm.
I mean, could you do it where you put a cartridge in and you could just like play the music off of the cartridge?
No, that's not how SBCs work.
Okay.
So you would have to have the files on SD card.
You'd have to have the files, yeah. It's kind of like the NSF player on the NT Mini. So I mean, it's a possibility. Whether it'll get done or not, I don't know. It just depends on how much time it takes. But I did want that SPC player on the NT Mini, but there's not enough multipliers, so I can't do it.
Yeah, I love the visualizer on the NSF player on the NT Mini because you like the way it just hits the different notes. Like you can see how hard it's hitting them and how it slides. I just think it's cool. By the way, what the heck game is this?
This is Ardy Lightfoot. I've never played it before in my life.
I think it was in John's video. Was it requested or did you just randomly pick it?
What's his face? The basement. What is it? Virtual basement? I forgot what it was.
Virtual Basement LLC. I mean, he can basically ask for anything now.
Yeah. Yeah, try playing Hagane, Hagane.
Oh yeah, or I pronounce it Hagane.
Hagane. How I pronounce it?
I'll play that one.
I mean that's like that game is worth like $1,000 or something, right? Or is it like?
Oh really? Is it really expensive?
Well, because in the US it was like Blockbuster only.
Oh.
Yeah, I forget. It's either $600 or over $1,000. I can't remember. It's something.
Hagane, the final conflict.
I mean, it's a cool game.
In the time of darkness, the pathway to Armageddon opens. Just FYI.
That's what I was playing when I recorded a clip of or one of the clips I recorded for Hagane. I played Hagane on Hagane.
Yeah. I wish it's a pretty cool game. It feels what does it kind of feel like? I mean, you're like a cyborg ninja. It feels kind of like Strider a little bit. Strider and
yeah. Have you played much Run Saber before?
Me?
Yeah, have you really played it?
Only a little bit, like when you've asked for like footage from it before you owned it, or maybe there's a reason I had to show it, and maybe in the SNES mini mod updates video I show it. But this feels kind of a lot like that too, in the way that you kind of swing your sword and just kind of glide across the ground.
Yeah.
It feels
you can use the right trigger to do a dash attack.
Oh, cool. Can you do it as many times as you want?
I don't know.
It looks awesome when you do it, though.
Is the Japanese version of this expensive as well? I feel like it is. I think it is. Let me look that up.
Do you feel like interested by it? You can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a really good game. Let's see. Hagane Super Famicom.
I mean, I wonder if it's called something different.
Yeah, it's expensive, but not as bad. It's
affordable.
It's like yeah, I mean it's not out of reach. I mean it's like here's one that's 77. Here's one that is with another game that's 92. Here's one that's 125. Here's one that's 100. No, here's one that's just 75. So it's not that crazy.
Oh, it has a Strider type slide too.
What's this other game? There's another game. There's Hagane in Musya. I don't know what Musya is. It's like included with Hagane in this one listing.
I can look it up. I can play it. So yeah, I was looking like I see someone in the chat said they got it for $70. Still.
Wow, I can't believe it's 11:19. I had no idea. We've still got over 600 people watching. So I assume Saturn would be similarly complicated just because that board has a stupid number of chips on it.
Yeah, I took a Saturn apart and I was just dumbfounded by how many chips were in that thing. And I was like, how can they even make this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Sega themselves wondered that basically because, you know, I don't know how true it is, but the story always goes that once they saw like the hardware that Sony was putting into the PlayStation, they like freaked out and like added a bunch of hardware to it like last minute.
That's what I heard was they added the 3D stuff was basically bolted on near the end.
Yeah.
And it's weird 3D. It's like it uses quads instead of triangles.
Yeah.
Very strange.
It's got some neat, like, have you ever seen like how water effects are done on the Saturn? It's pretty cool. Like it does this like sort of wavy curve effect, and I'm not sure how it pulls it off exactly, but it's pretty neat. Like you don't see effects like that on PlayStation at all. Like I think it's using some of the 2D hardware alongside it.
You can change weapons with X apparently in this game also.
Oh, yeah. Projectile weapons, much better. Not that it matters, I guess.
This is the problem with flashcards, you know. You just
you just play and move on to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, that's the kind of stream we need for tonight. Is just playing a bunch of games.
Yeah. I think next week. I mean, well, we might be doing a magazine stream next week. I think.
Well, that's true.
If the magazine stream doesn't happen next week, I think we're gonna do an arcade board stream.
Oh.
Arcade board.
Yeah.
Like this one.
Oh, what do you got? What is it?
Oh, is that versus Mario Brothers or something?
Yeah, this is that really weird versus Mario Brothers board that I reverse engineered. It's a pirate.
So is it what makes it different from a legit one?
It's just they basically implemented all the Nintendo hardware in discrete logic chips. It's insane. I have no idea who would bother to do such a thing, but he did.
And yet, it has been reverse engineered. So
yeah, I drew a schematic of it. There's a video of me reverse engineering it with a description and explanation of how it works, including a full schematic you can download.
I mean, what does it take? You just decide like, hey, that sounds fun to do, or
yeah. I mean, I needed a break from the Super NT around Christmas, so I spent 2 days with a multimeter and Altium and drew a schematic out, and then figured out how it worked. It was pretty fun actually. So then I made a video to show how it all worked, and that's pretty much it.
That's awesome.
Let's see here.
So, I found some interesting things like the sprites on there. They're delayed to frame because they actually render them into a frame buffer of all things.
Really weird.
Yeah, I don't know why they did it that way, but it must have been the easiest way for them to do it.
Look up that Musya game that was on this auction.
Musya.
All right.
I have no idea what it is. It's just it's there with Hagane.
Is it MOU?
MUSYA.
Musya, the classic Japanese tale of horror.
Oh.
This looks like it might be a translation too. Begin and continue. Let's begin, shall we? Long ago, a pikeman named Emoto survived a great battle. Let's skip this story. Tengamura. Cavern. Did Analog sell? Did they sell out the second batch yet?
Oh,
They-
the second
they-
batch of Super NT? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think they're still in stock. I think they sold out of
the-
Super Famicom one. I think is sold out.
Right. Which I know somebody's asking which one I had. That's one I have.
Yeah, I would say between the clear one, the purple one, and the Super Famicom one, I like all of those pretty equally. I'm not a huge fan of the black one, but I understand. That's a color a lot of people like for a system, and also like people might have like a black NT Mini and they would want to match it.
Yeah, my favorite's definitely the clear one.
Try which
I've
one?
got-
Which one are you hooking up? Do you have hooked up?
I've got the clear one hooked up right now, but here I've got sitting next to me the purple one. I know this sounds like really silly and excessive, but I'm thinking about like having one set up for like Game Boy settings, like Game Boy aspect ratio, and just like leaving the Super Game Boy 2 in it, and then have the other set up for like regular Super Nintendo settings and aspect ratio.
How hard would it be to have like preset, or you could save your own scaling presets?
And like load one or the other.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be kind of hard. It'd take a lot of work to add it. So if I had something like that, it'll be a while because I want to make sure all the bugs and stuff are fixed first.
Right.
Yeah. How hard would it be to do to implement 7x vertical?
Why would you want that?
for Game Boy, because if you do 7x vertical, then you could use the black border on the Super Game Boy, and then you could just have the game fill the whole screen. Well, kind of like how the FPGA version of Game Boy does it on the NT Mini.
I don't know. There may not be enough RAM bandwidth to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There was a bug like several firmwares ago where you actually could scale it that much if you wanted to, but once you booted a game, it didn't stick. I don't think.
Yeah. That was because it locked out the scale for the boot ROM thing.
Mm-hmm.
Boot screen. It locks the resolution for it, and then it unlocks it when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that checked the scale, that's what it wasn't checking it, so you could just set it to anything. But yeah, as you found out when you actually ran a game, it fixes it. It won't let you do it.
Yeah, at first I thought it did work, but then I don't know why I thought it worked at first.
I'm gonna play.
So
Buster Bust
how is that Musya game?
It stinks. I don't think.
Really?
Yeah. I do want to play this. Apparently, this is the Tiny Toons Buster Bust Loose. Is the all the people that left and made Treasure? This was their last game.
That's crazy.
According to John, the difficulty levels, there's normal, children, and challenge.
So that's kind of crazy though, because the date on this is 93, and isn't McDonald Land and Gunstar, aren't they also? Holy cow! We got, well, I don't know what unit of money this is, but we got 100 SEK. Or wait, I might be reading this wrong. SEK 100 from Billy Lundeval. A donation because you guys have helped me with my retro setup a lot, both through your videos and very informative replies to comments. Also because Kevtris is a king. The Super NT looks superb. Thank you. Oh, that's a Swedish kroner.
Ah. I don't know if this is more difficult or easier than the NES game. I don't want to go.
I mean, this is a pretty popular game, isn't it?
It's not expensive, I know.
It's not.
No.
An
Yeah.
FPGA 3DO.
Because that's what I'm sure that's what everyone wants. The
No,
3DO
that's
though, I mean,
You know what I want to make an FPGA version of? The Super ACAN.
I forget what that. I know the name, but I forget what it is.
It's this really weird console from Taiwan by United Microelectronics, and it did not do very well at all. It's 68K based, and it looks like a Super Famicom, and the cartridge port is like the same and everything, but it's
Okay,
68K.
that is sounding familiar now.
It's really weird, and there's like 12 games for it.
so we got another 100 SEK from Dopefish.
Oh, what Billy said. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was looking at video of that cool spot game for Genesis and comparing it to the Super Nintendo version of it.
Yeah, the Genesis version is considered to be it's pretty good. I have it. I have the Genesis version.
Oh yeah, I mean it's pretty good, but it was just interesting just to see the difference. One thing I noticed was the Super Nintendo version was a lot more colorful, but other than that, but the Genesis version, like the bonus games, had like little bubbles that rose up, in the background that I thought was pretty cool that the Super Nintendo version doesn't have.
Smoke Monster was asking, if you develop a core for a Cyclone 3, is it hard to port it to a Cyclone 5?
No, it's not. You just recompile it.
Okay.
You might have to change if you use any IP blocks like block RAMs and PLLs. You have to change those, but other than that, it's pretty easy to port it. It doesn't take very long. Where you may run into problems if you're trying to go from, say, Altera to Xilinx. But again, if your code itself, I think is fine. You just have to redo your IP blocks, like the block RAMs and the PLLs.
Someone obviously this is probably pretty far-fetched, but theoretically, I wonder how it would work. Someone said a Game & Watch multi-system, which obviously, first of all, would you go about reverse engineering a Game & Watch in a similar way to just another system?
I've done a lot of work dumping the ROMs and reverse engineering handheld games, like those little Coleco tabletop things.
Or the Tiger Electronics, like that style of game?
Yeah, well, those ones are newer, but the ones I did were all like the older ones with the VFD displays and stuff. But
okay.
There's been a lot of work on the Tiger ones and those, the Tiger ones, like Gauntlet and stuff like that, the little LCD ones.
So do Game & Watches and those sorts of systems, do they run off of a ROM chip or what?
Oh, yeah, it's a 4-bit microcontroller, and so we've been decapping them and dumping the ROMs visually. And they will play a whole bunch of those.
I didn't even know 4-bit was a thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, the lockout chip in the NES and SNES, that's a 4-bit CPU.
Huh.
And so someone asked me if I still have a chubby to do the links. I do, but I just haven't had any time, Everything all comes down to time with me. I can do a million things, but I just don't have time to do all those things.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to see this stuff in your sleep at this point.
Well, I don't have a visual memory, so no.
Right. That's right.
But no, it's usually that doesn't seem to be that difficult for me. It's just everything takes time.
Yeah. I never thought about the LCD thing. Obviously the challenge with dumping an LCD game, though, wouldn't you have to you would have to recreate the graphics? The gameplay would be. The gameplay could be preserved, but you would have to recreate the graphics.
Yeah, so what I did on the VFD games, which are the same type of thing, is I took a picture of it with all those segments lit, and then I traced them out, I vectorized them, and then you load that along with the ROM into MAME, and then you can play the game.
Someone asked about, and we've gotten this question in, or people just said it in our video comments. GBA, like how would that compare to, I mean, being a 32-bit thing? How would that compare to the difficulty of doing a PS1?
I don't know. GBA runs on an ARM core. I mean, I haven't really looked into it a whole lot, so I can't really say for sure. I mean, I'm sure it's doable, but as you get newer and newer, the amount of complexity goes way up on these things. Like the Super Nintendo is easily 10 times as complicated as just the NES. So, it was a really big jump going from that to this.
I used to be so good at Street Fighter 2. Although I feel like the computer kind of cheats in this one a little bit compared to, compared to World Warrior.
Those elephants in the background are hilarious.
I like the background in general. I like the Mode 7 floor.
Well, it's just parallax, I think.
Oh, it looks like Mode 7 to me. Are you sure it's not Mode 7?
It's not Mode 7. It's just tile layers.
Really?
Yep. Just good.
Yeah. Okay, I can see it now that you're saying that.
One problem with Mode 7 is you don't get any tile layers with Mode 7. All you get is Mode 7 and sprites.
Oh, okay.
So if you see anything that's static, like, what's interesting on Pilot Wings on the title screen, the logo's Mode 7.
Uh-huh.
Everything else is sprites. Like there's a gradient, that's sprites, and all that other stuff, that's all sprites.
Huh.
That's a great game, Pilot Wings.
I think I appreciate it a little bit more now than I used to, but I still like Pilot Wings 64 better. a lot better, but it's, the original's okay.
Someone was asking about FPGAing a Neo Geo. I originally wanted to do that. I still kind of do. And the Neo Geo isn't very complicated. It's just brute force design. So it needs a lot of RAM, and it needs a lot of RAM buses to work. So that's the main issue there. It's not really difficult. It's just brute force.
So would you need a lot more? Would the RAM be a lot more expensive to implement than, say, the RAM that you had to put on the Super NT?
It would. You need more RAM chips, and they'd have to be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest part would probably be testing the real games.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how easy it would be to actually run real games on such a thing.
If you were to make a Neo Geo system someday, would you that actually did read real cartridges? If you had to choose between AES or MVS cartridges, which do you think you would be more likely to make the system read?
I don't know.
I think they're the same. I mean, they should read the same. They're just the shells are different, I think.
Mike Iron Fist donated $2 and asked, "Has anyone asked about Genesis Mega Drive FPGA yet?" A million people have asked about Genesis Mega Drive FPGA. But you haven't done any other 16. You haven't done any other cores of this generation yet.
No, everyone's like on Atari, you're like, oh well, I bet he's got a Genesis core and a TG16 core.
It's just ready to go. Kevtris has everything.
But no, I mean, it just is, like I said, it's an order of magnitude more difficult, and Super Nintendo's taken me this long, and that's all I've done. So
yeah. How much hardware overlap? Would you be able to sort of use what you've done with Master System as a jumping off point for Genesis?
Yeah, well, the Genesis is kind of interesting. It's kind of like a Master System with one more video mode and a different CPU.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I was listening to the interview with Bob, and I thought it was really funny that you said. Correct me if I'm wrong on the processor, but I think you said that there was a machine at work that ran on the same processor as like a Master System or something, and you replaced it with the same FPGA core that you made that plays Master System games. Is that right?
Yeah, at work on this controller I made, it runs on a Z80, and then the Z80s and stuff were getting really hard to get. So I made a new board with a Cyclone 3 FPGA, and it's running the same Z80 core that the Master System uses.
That's hilarious. Like you already had the work done, but for video game application.
Yeah,
but
so I'm like, well, why don't I just use it on here? And the work's already done, and then I get paid royalties from work for it. So whenever we make boards, I get a few bucks here and there. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, I mean that's it's like, could you have taken that chip out of a could you have taken the chip out of like a real system and just put it on that board basically if you wanted?
What do you mean before? Well, yeah.
Like, could you have taken? I mean, not that you would want to necessarily, but could you have like opened up a Master System and taken the chip out and just put it on your board at work instead, if you wanted?
Yeah, it's a Z80. It's the same chip.
Like, yeah, I mean, that's just it's so funny to think that that's possible.
Well, what Sega like to do, they like to use standard CPUs and such, and Nintendo like to use standard CPUs, but integrate them into their chips.
Okay.
Like on the NES, it's a 6502, but it's built into that NES CPU that has the audio and some DMA functionality. And on the SNES, it's the same way. It's a 65816, but it's built into their CPU that has the DMA hardware in it.
I thought it was interesting, the revisions you were talking. I thought it was funny because you just like set it off the top of your head. You're like, oh, it's based on a 213 model, which is let me see if I've got memorized now. Rev 1 CPU, Rev 2 CPU, Rev 1. Wait, no. I can do this. Rev 1 CPU, Rev 2 PPU1, and Rev 3 PPU2? No, that's not right.
That's right.
Oh, it is right. So it's Rev 1, Rev 2, Rev 3 in order, right?
Yeah, so like the very early systems were a 111, which is a Rev 1 everything. And then they went to like 212, and then 213 is like the last revision.
Okay. See, yeah, I thought it was. Wait, wait, what? Rev 2 CPU, Rev 1 PPU1, Rev 3 PPU. Okay, because that was whatever this was based on was because I've got there was like an $8 Super Nintendo like a year ago that was at a Goodwill store, and I was like, ooh, this looks like it might be a one chip. I should get it. And it wasn't a one chip, but the board is marked 1995. And when I took a look at it, it did have the same chip revisions that you mentioned. So,
yeah.
There's another donation I saw from Virtual Basement. Had a question.
Oh,
sorry,
$10.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you guys.
So, Virtual Basement says, Kev, I'm concerned with what the gentleman behind you is watching. Otherwise, I'm curious how the Super NT handles audio for games like Goof Troop and Revolution X.
He's playing Skyrim, special edition, which I was playing earlier today too. That's my current game that I've been playing. I mean, I've played Skyrim before to death, but the special edition's pretty fun too. I haven't played it in a while, so it's been pretty fun playing it. So, anyways, what about these other games? I mean, like Revolution X, it's just they just have basically samples of the music in the SPC, and it just plays that.
Goof Troop was the other.
I don't know Goof Troop.
I didn't
Can the
realize the
Super
revolution.
NT play Skyrim?
Yeah, Portal 2 was way too easy. I just blew through that game. I mean, there was no challenge at all. It was fun, but it was no challenge.
Not like Gradius 3.
Yeah, I blew through this game too. I played the hell out of this. I could beat this game on hard, without having to continue.
Oh wow!
Gradius games, they're very intimidating to me. I finally beat 5. I mean, I guess I beat Life Force.
I like this bubble stage where that like huge bubble shows up. I don't know why I always thought that was pretty impressive back in the day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some pretty big ones, and then that like giant one shows up. Yeah, right there.
That music in Gradius 5 that I used in the
John used it in his
PS2 video. Yeah, was that the PS2 music that was in that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, is there a version of that track in Super Nintendo or not? But I guess not, because I was like, there's no way that's playing on a Super Nintendo because it sounds just like the PS2 version.
This is one of those games where pretty much if you get powered up enough, you're kind of unstoppable. But if you die,
but staying powered
funny
up.
about this game, if you pause this game and enter the Konami code, it blows your ship up. There's a different code you can enter. I can't remember what it is to get all the power-ups or something. But yeah, if you enter the Konami code, it blows your ship up.
That's funny. But is that because if I'm not mistaken, aren't there some games where, like, didn't they change the Konami code to use shoulder buttons instead of D-pad from NES to Super Nintendo?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's what I thought. I've not really used it a whole lot before, but like, I wonder if they like do anything. I want to say I might have read that they maybe do something bad if you use like the D-pad instead of the R and L buttons.
Shoulder buttons instead of L and R on the D.
Yeah.
But on this game, if you use, the regular Konami code, it blows your ship up. I know that.
Well, maybe it does something good if you do the R and L.
Well, there is one. Yeah, maybe that's how you do it. It's been forever since I've played this, so I tried playing this during development. I just suck at it now. After being so good at it, and it's kind of depressing. Oh yeah, another game that I played a lot of was that Zool game.
Oh yeah.
That was a pretty fun game. I could beat that game over and over again, and I did do that, but I've been having trouble when I played it recently.
Is that the game where it's a platformer, right?
It was originally an Amiga game.
Okay.
And it's funny. I looked on YouTube of the Amiga version, and it kind of lame compared to the SNES. There's no music in it, and on SNES it has like parallax background, and on the Amiga it's just like a gradient background. But other than that, the graphics are the same.
Huh.
But what's funny is the title screen music on the Super Nintendo is like the music on the Amiga.
Something interesting I noticed, just a random observation. One early on in my testing the Super NT, I played Kirby Superstar because it's one of my favorite games on the system, and I was like, obviously I was like looking for things to be wrong, and I noticed like a lot of like frame hitches and stuff, and so I was like going through my recordings frame by frame, and I noticed that sometimes like the sprite layer and the background layer like didn't always update like at the same time. Like one of the layers might like skip a frame, or it might have only been the sprite layer, I forget. But I just thought that was interesting. Then I like went back on original hardware and like I was able to recreate, obviously the same effect there. So I just thought it was interesting. I think it was the sprite layer did not always update every frame, but I think the background layer always did, but it was just kind of interesting. I'm sure there are other games that do that.
Yeah, I found lots and lots of things like that because, once you get to developing this, you you can see those things like little glitches,
Hmm.
things like that. So I get really super sensitive for it.
Yeah,
And
I mean, not necessarily a glitch, but just like, just little oddities in each game.
yeah, because it could be a bug. So
Yeah.
or it could be my fault. So I have to look and make sure it isn't. But I mean, I may not have noticed that stuff before, but I sure notice it now.
Yeah.
I just
Oh yeah, what's this game saying? When you pick up a pizza box, it sounds like he's saying pizza guy. Is he saying pizza time?
yeah, it's funny.
It's like, pizza guy, and I'm like, what?
Pizza guy. I actually played through this game with my daughter today. It was the first time we actually co-opted through a game. That was inspired by John from Digital Foundry, who co-opted this game with his son recently. It was the first game they ever beat together, I think. I said, I want to do that too, and we had an awesome time. We played on easy, but
Well, like, you still had limited lives and continues?
yeah, you get 5
So-
continues between the 2 people.
And did she make it all the way to the end?
Yeah, I mean,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I have a photo. I should post it online. And my son came in. He wanted to play too, but it's only 2 players, so we just gave him another one of the 8-bit does, and he was playing it, but he was holding the controller upside down.
And you played on the Super NT, I assume?
Yep.
Are you, which controller are you using right now?
The black one.
There's been a lot of people talking about not liking the D-pad on the I think they're specifically talking about the new versions of the 8-bit do controllers rather than the earlier Super Famicom. Are you having any trouble with it?
I feel like it might be a little bit more sensitive than the old revision.
Yeah, I feel like it might be easier to hit a diagonal on accident, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't had significant trouble though. It's not seriously bothered me, but I did notice on a few occasions, I was playing Operation C for the Super Game Boy stuff, and I noticed that I was sometimes doing some squirrely aiming, doing a diagonal aiming when I didn't mean to or something.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of noticed that when I was just playing Street Fighter 2, some moves were more difficult to do than normal. I mean, still, these are by far the best non-first party controllers.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're just so convenient. I like to use the real controller, especially if I'm going to really sit down and play a game for a long time. I do like to use the real controller, but if I'm just testing a game out or recording something, it's so much more convenient to just use the 8-bit dos, because I just have the receiver in my system, and I don't have to pull the controller out. It's really convenient.
That's my controller that I've been using for development, just because it's wired.
Oh yeah, the Street Fighter one, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I like these things.
Yeah.
I bought it for $450 at Electronic Boutique on closeout.
I think the Giant Bomb guys were using that controller too during their live stream when they were reviewing the system.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, they had it, and I didn't realize you're supposed to hold it you do it like an arcade game, like an arcade stick.
You don't have to. It's designed so you can hold it, like this or like this.
Yeah.
So you can,
Interesting.
or you can hold it, like this.
Because I always remembered it. Kind of, seeing it in magazines and Capcom's coming out with their own controller for Street Fighter 2 is gonna be awesome, and it was that, and I was like, that doesn't really do anything
I
for me.
played the hell out of games with that thing. I like the 3DO one too, or the 8-bit do. Talking about 3DO earlier, but yeah, I use the 8-bit do when I use that one, so I use them both. I haven't really had too many problems with the the D-pad on the 8-bit do one.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it feels fine. But I just during Street Fighter 2, I kind of noticed it was a little more sensitive here and there. But I might be very out of practice as well.
Someone says, will there be a special edition Billy Mitchell Super NT with extra main functions? And
That was a. It was kind of a. It was interesting. You know, it's interesting. I don't know. Try if you were you following any of the like the.
I was the Billy Mitchell thing. I was
And
aware of it,
what's-his-face,
but
whatever
I
it
didn't
is,
read.
Rod.
I didn't read a lot of specifics about it.
Well, there's like an hour-long like kind of documentary like blowout on the situation. And,
Okay.
And I watched some of it, and suddenly our good friend Firebrand X like pops up within this story. He's like
What?
he was like a ref or something like that for Twin Galaxies.
Oh.
Like has like some connection. It was like kind of
Like, are we
witnessing
talking
it
like a long time ago or recently?
like a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
But he's like recently
feel like
now
he's-
re-involved in it.
I feel like I
Wolf
feel
just
like
like
that's something he's probably told us before, but I don't remember it specifically. That's cool though.
He's like been involved in all
he's
this
got
like
he's
like
got
random
color
stuff.
publicity.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a
What was he like? You know, well, you know, the integer scaling on this clearly indicates that it's MAME and not real hardware.
yeah, that was pretty interesting.
No.
But yeah, I watched a documentary about, cheating in speedruns in general, and people were showing how you could detect it, like, the 60 hertz hum in the background. If the footage was like spliced together, that hum would have breaks in it, and so that people had been found out that way. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, like the Billy Mitchell stuff was like pretty interesting. Like the combine. Like apparently there's one person that has like an actual real Donkey Kong machine that's like capable of like direct feed capture. Like
And they compared it. Yeah, I saw that. They compared it with his footage, and the way it drew the screen was a little different.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. Like
And in fact, it was exactly the way the emulator did it.
Right. It's really fascinating that some pretty serious detective work on that kind of stuff. Pretty impressive. I think I'm gonna wind it down after I lose this last.
Yeah, I
life.
can't believe it's almost midnight.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Just gotta do. It's interesting because this game it takes so long to actually get into like the time travel stuff.
Yeah.
You know, for being in the title, it takes like doesn't happen until like the fifth level.
That's
yeah,
pretty cool water effect.
yeah. It was definitely fun like playing this with my daughter. She was really into it too. I mean, she isn't really familiar with the Ninja Turtles at all.
That's a sine wave scroll effect using HDMA, by the way, on the water, if you're wondering.
I was wondering, actually.
Yeah, that's how that's done. That's pretty easy to do. Was that a Mario question mark block right there?
Well,
Oh,
yes, it looks
I
like
think
it.
it's supposed
Yeah,
to be like a pizza box.
it is a pizza. Well, he says pizza time every time you.
Oh, he does.
These
I
things
have
look
the
exact-
audio muted so it doesn't bleed into the mic.
Yeah.
I mean, is it pizza? Why is it a question mark? Like, what
I don't
else
know.
can it be other than
Well,
pizza?
It reminds me of Mario Kart.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I just got it. Yeah, yeah, it says bonus pizza. It's bonus pizza.
Oh, that's the best kind.
Yeah. Gotta fight the Rat King here.
Pizza monster.
Is that like Pizza the Hut?
Pizza the
I,
Hut.
I just picked up like for $1 at a used books and games store. I picked up a Spaceballs VHS.
You can't say no to that. I mean, that's
Why not? You know?
yeah.
Pizza the Hut got trapped in his limo and ate himself to death.
It is a great movie. I saw that movie at the drive-in when I.
That movie single-handedly ruined Star Wars forever for me.
I saw it at the drive-in when I was a kid.
Oh, Dopefish
When it's Goof Troop.
requests Goof Troop.
All right. I'll do a little Goof Troop.
Apparently, that was part of. I guess that was part of Virtual Basement's request. He was asking about that and something else. I think.
All right. Well, I'll do a Goof
So
Troop.
let's definitely do some Goof Troop. Anyone know when Jesus Cart's back in stock? I think Bob said something about being back in stock soon, but I don't. I mean that might have been like a week ago. I forget. I think you need to like pay it. I think if you pay attention to like his main forum thread on, I think it's on Shmups. Hopefully you can find out. They do sell out fast. So does this game do some weird things with audio or something, I guess, maybe?
I have no clue.
I don't know. I have this game, but I got it for real cheap for some reason.
Well, this, I mean, it looks like a puzzle game.
Yeah, it looks kind of like Lolo.
Though.
For some reason, it kind of makes me think of Mole Mania on Game Boy. I don't know, like, really anything about the Goof Troop TV show.
No, I think it's unwinnable now.
What?
You kicked out the wrong way and blocked it off.
That seems like a crappy thing
Like,
to do on the first
It's kind
level.
of like Sokoban, isn't it? In that respect, where you have to do it in the right order.
I think of like Adventures of Lolo. Don't you have to do that like in a specific order?
In Lola, there's like a kill button where you can like kill yourself, like if you've made yourself unwinnable.
I feel like I can pick this stuff up. So he raises his hands.
It looks like he's just running around, you know.
Put your
freaked
hands
out.
up. Let's try it again. And you have to waste all your lives.
Can't you just walk off the screen and back on to reset it?
You
Let's
would
see.
think you could. There's got to be like a kill button.
Yeah, it just seems. Oh, okay, I can. But they don't seem to follow like a real pattern. Oh, there we go. Got him. I did it. How do I get up there then, though? I mean, I assume I have to get to the jewels up there, but I can't get to them.
Why is cartridge audio from Super Game Boy toggle on the settings and not just on all the time? I think it's because it would, if the DAC was on or the analog to digital was on all the time, then there's the potential for noise. That I mean,
yeah, it
people,
just lowers the noise floor, turning it off, basically.
Most people would probably not notice if you wanted to leave it on, though.
Yeah.
Like, what
There's no
creates
saying you can't.
what creates the obvious noise is the Super Game Boy itself.
Uh-huh.
Like, I was able to hear that on a real Super Game Boy or on a real Super Nintendo. Like, I put it in the system. I had to turn up the volume a lot more before I could really hear it, but I guess it's just because it's I don't know. I guess it's just because it's clearer, being digital, all digital.
Well, there could be a lot of ultrasonic components that you wouldn't normally hear, but the A to D will alias, so then it'll pick it up.
Mm.
I mean, that's possible. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that could cause it.
Just have to use the hook shot.
There's gotta be. Oh, I bet you could use that hook shot thing to like move that barrel, and then you could push that block.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Oh, okay. It is a pretty I saw someone say it's a pretty complex puzzle to start with. Yeah, there it is. It's just a matter of like learning it, though, I guess. Oh, pick up the barrel. All right. So Kevin, do you have like a huge list? I mean, like, what's the bug list that you have to tackle at this point? I mean, do you feel like you have
there's not very many things at all. The main one that I want to fix is that controller issue where like on Star Fox 2 and that PAL Street Racer, it thinks there's like a super scope attached for some reason. So that's a really interesting one for me.
Is that with like the reproduction of the version from the SNES Mini, I guess?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. Because the regular Star Fox works fine. You know, I've played that and have no issues. So I'm not sure what the game is doing to detect the controller wrong. So I'm gonna look into it. I don't think it's anything too difficult. I believe it's related to how the system switches. Because the menu uses a controller, so if there's not a game running, the FPGA has to manually read the controller so the menu works. But once the game starts running, it will use the game. It'll piggyback on the game reading the controller. So it might be the point where it switches over that's having issues. I'm not 100% sure. So it may get one read where it's not quite right, and it's like, oh, hey, that's a Super Game Boy, and then it doesn't work. Or, I mean, sorry, it thinks it's the Super Scope, and it doesn't work. So.
Virtual Basement is satisfied that the Goof Troop audio is indeed working correctly.
Well, that's good.
This game does look interesting. Like it feels like it needs like a tutorial, or you need to just read the manual or something, though.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it off of eBay, I think, a while back. I haven't really played it too much, but man, when I got this cartridge in the mail, is definitely from the home of a heavy smoker.
Oh.
Pick up this one.
Was there a particular reason you were seeking it out on eBay? Like, I'm surprised it wasn't just a random
it was
game.
good.
Was there cigarette burns on the label?
No, it just smelled immediately when I pulled it out of the box that I got it in.
A number of people have said is an excellent co-op game.
Yeah, it seems like it would be.
You know what? My favorite multiplayer game's got to be Bomberman 5. A couple of us played that, you know, in simultaneous multiplayer, and that was friggin' awesome.
Oh, with the multi-tap thing.
Yeah, That was the way I tested the multi-tap.
The Hudson one? Was it the Bomberman one, or it's like the Bomberman head, isn't it?
I just used a regular generic multi-tap, but yeah, apparently all the multi-taps are the same, like electrically, even if they look different.
Right.
Oh, really?
It's not like on the NES where there was two different ones, like the Famicom multiplayer is different than the Fourscore.
I mean, my favorite games to play multiplayer are like Kirby Superstar, Secret of Mana, and of course Seiken Densetsu 3 as well.
All right, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. after midnight.
Oh gosh, yeah. This stream's sort of blown by.
Yeah. How many people are watching? Still over 600?
No, we're down to 550. But
It still blew our previous record out of the water.
Yeah, it's blown our previous records out of the water by quite a lot, actually. So.
Yeah. Never be able to.
Well, maybe if you've got another system next year, we'll
That's probably the last thing he wants to think about at this point. He's like,
we'll have you back on, and we'll blow another record out of the water again.
Well, do we have any closing questions or anything that people would like to ask last minute? The lightning round. I think we did lightning round last time, didn't we?
Yeah, something like that.
Wait for that to get to the chat.
I'm glad everybody's happy with it and like it. So it went better than I ever could have thought. I'm glad everyone's enjoying it.
Yeah, it's been surprisingly smooth, I think.
Oh, there's a comment from Reese Riverson. I know that he's had a comment like at the very beginning of the stream. I can look it up. I know he had a comment way back. Let me see here. There's just another donation if you watch for it.
Oh yeah, it was a $1. Shoot, I just missed it. I don't think it's in the chat.
I can make
I think it was Retro Morgan.
Yeah. So I think it said keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work.
Thank you.
Should I use multi-core coax even if I don't use a switch box? I just want quality. You use multi-core for everything because of the audio, right?
Wait, what are we talking about?
Like the multi-core, like the thicker cables. I can't think of what they're called. Like the multi-core.
Yeah. I mean, it's not truly necessary for every system. The ones that I found it to be necessary on, especially, were like NES. I was having some issues with Dreamcast, at least with the Toro box, and I think a few others. And like, any instance where I have had noise, like getting the multi-core has definitely, like, without fail, improved it. So yeah, I mean, I recommend them where possible, but especially NES. But if you can afford it, it can't hurt, especially if you're going through a switch box, and especially like for your switch box output, I would definitely recommend it as well. You just want to minimize those chances of that noise gain there getting that noise gain. Did you say that was from Reese?
No, he had a donation way earlier in the stream, around 9:30.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, I know Reese Riverson is an audio guy, so in his case, I would say that yes, definitely for every system, because you're going to hear things I will never hear. So.
What he said, great review on the Super NT. I can't wait to get one. It looks so promising. Also, a big thanks to Kevtris too. Great work, dude. I think that is it. There's a 20 SEK from Dopefish saying, thanks for the stream. Awesome work, everyone. Well,
thank you.
All right, so I think that's going to do it.
I guess we did it.
Kevtris, thanks for joining us once again. It's always an honor to have you on here.
Well, if you ever want me on again, just let me know. It doesn't have to be for any particular reason.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See you, everybody.